Hi everyone. Great to have you here at Harry What If. Get comfortable because today we're presenting What If Luna Lovegood was actually a princess and she chose Harry as her eternal king. Before we start, a gentle reminder, if you love stories like this, please like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm show our videos to more people. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Chapter 1. The Princess Among Us. Harry's breath caught in his throat as he ducked behind a massive oak tree. Moonlight spilled through the canopy of the forbidden forest, illuminating a clearing he'd never seen before. And there, standing in its center, was Luna Lovegood. But not Luna as he knew her. The eccentric Ravenclaw floated 3 feet off the ground, her long blonde hair whipping around her face despite the still night air. Her wand, no, not her wand, a slender crystal staff pulsed with blue-silver light as she traced complex patterns in the air. The magic looked nothing like anything taught at Hogwarts. Luminaris Coroni, Luna whispered, her voice carrying strangely through the forest. The silver light coalesced above her head, forming what looked unmistakably like a crown before dissolving into thousands of tiny stars that scattered through the trees. Harry shifted his weight, and a twig snapped beneath his foot. Luna spun midair, her usually dreamy expression instantly alert. The staff vanished, literally disappeared from her hand, and she dropped lightly to the forest floor. "Hello, Harry Potter," she said, her voice returning to its familiar dreamy cadence. "You're out rather late. Hunting Raxperts?" Harry stepped into the clearing, embarrassed at being caught spying but too curious to retreat. "Sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. I was following, well, I thought I saw something strange heading into the forest." He paused, then decided honesty was best. "Luna, what was that magic you were doing? It didn't look like anything we've learned." "Oh, just a bit of practice," Luna said, twirling a lock of hair around her finger. "Sometimes the conventional spells feel a bit restrictive, don't you think? Like wearing someone else's shoes. But you were floating. Without a spell. And that staff, was it a staff? How fascinating." Luna smiled serenely. "Perhaps the Nargles are playing tricks on your eyes. They're especially active during the waning gibbous moon." She gestured upward. Harry frowned. He knew what he'd seen. "Luna," a distant howl cut through the night. Luna's expression changed instantly, all dreaminess vanishing. "We should return to the castle. Now." Before Harry could protest, Luna grabbed his wrist. Her touch sent a jolt of something, not quite electricity, more like liquid starlight, up his arm. She pulled him through the trees with surprising strength and confidence, navigating the dark forest as if born to it. "How do you know your way so well?" Harry asked, jogging to keep up. "The trees tell me," Luna said simply. "If you listen properly, they're quite chatty." Harry might have laughed if he hadn't just witnessed her wielding magic that defied explanation. Instead, he just followed, noting how the moonlight seemed to follow her, illuminating their path while shadows gathered more deeply around them. As they reached the edge of the forest, Luna stopped abruptly. "Harry," she said, suddenly serious, "sometimes it's safer not to see certain things. Not because the thing itself is dangerous, but because knowing changes paths that were meant to stay separate a while longer." "What does that mean?" Her silver-gray eyes seemed to glow in the moonlight. "It means I'd appreciate if you'd forget what you saw tonight. At least for now." She squeezed his hand once, then let go. "The universe has its timing, and I've found it's best not to rush it." With that cryptic statement, Luna skipped, toward the castle, humming a tune Harry had never heard before. He stood watching her go, rubbing his wrist where her touch had left a lingering warmth. Whatever secret Luna Lovegood was keeping, it was bigger than Nargles and Raxperts. And despite her request, Harry Potter had never been very good at ignoring mysteries. "Mr. Potter. Your attention, if you please." Harry jerked his head up from where he'd been absently stirring his potion. Professor Snape loomed over him, lip curled in familiar disdain. "Fascinating as the inside of your cauldron may be, the instructions clearly state to add the salamander blood after the solution turns green, not before it boils over and destroys my classroom floor. Harry glanced down with alarm to see his potion bubbling dangerously. He quickly removed it from the flame, earning an exaggerated sigh from Snape. 5 points from Gryffindor for daydreaming. And another 5 for incompetence. As Snape swept away, Hermione leaned over. "What's wrong with you today? That's the 3rd time you've drifted off." "Nothing," Harry muttered, trying to salvage his ruined potion. "Just didn't sleep well." The truth was, he couldn't stop thinking about Luna and what he'd witnessed in the forest 3 nights ago. He'd tried to catch her alone since then, but she seemed to have developed an uncanny ability to disappear whenever he got close. "Is it your scar?" Hermione persisted, lowering her voice. "Because if Voldemort, it's not that," Harry cut her off. "It's..." He hesitated. Something about Luna's warning stuck with him. "It's nothing important." Ron, working across from them, snorted. "If it's making you mess up bad enough for Snape to notice, it must be something." "Later," Harry said, as Snape's gaze fixed on their table again. After class, as they made their way to the Great Hall for lunch, Harry spotted a familiar blonde head drifting down the corridor ahead. "I'll catch up with you guys," he said abruptly. Ron looked confused, but Hermione followed his gaze and raised an eyebrow. "All right then. We'll save you a seat." Harry hurried after Luna, weaving through the crowd of students. "Luna. Hey, Luna, wait up." She turned, looking genuinely surprised to see him. "Oh, hello Harry. Are you in a hurry? You seem rather breathless." "I've been trying to talk to you for days," he said, falling into step beside her. "Have you? How strange. I've been right here." She smiled vaguely, but Harry noticed her eyes darting to a group of passing Slytherins, tracking them with uncharacteristic focus. "About what I saw in the forest," Luna suddenly stopped walking and grabbed his arm, pulling him into an empty classroom with startling speed. She closed the door and waved her wand in a complex pattern. The air around them seemed to thicken momentarily. "Privacy charm," she explained, seeing his expression. "A bit more thorough than the standard ones they teach here." Harry blinked. "Right. So you're not going to pretend it didn't happen? Would you believe me if I did?" Luna asked, perching on a desk and swinging her feet. She'd transfigured her shoes into what appeared to be miniature watermelons, and they bobbed incongruously as she moved. "No," Harry admitted. "Luna, what was that magic? And don't say Nargles." Luna studied him for a long moment, her silver eyes unusually focused. "There are different kinds of magic in the world, Harry. The kind they teach at Hogwarts is just one tradition. One approach. And what you were doing? A family tradition," she said simply. "Passed down through generations." Harry frowned. "But your wand changed into that staff thing. And you were floating without a spell." "The wand is a tool that helps focus magic," Luna said. "But it's not the only tool. And some of us need less help focusing than others." She hopped off the desk. "I'd love to explain more, but it's complicated. And not entirely my secret to tell. Does this have something to do with why 3 people I've never seen before have been watching you around the castle?" Harry asked. Luna went very still. "What people?" "A tall man with silver hair, always wearing blue robes. A woman with a scar across her cheek. And a younger guy who keeps disappearing around corners whenever I spot him." Luna's dreamy demeanor vanished completely. "How long?" "Since the day after I saw you in the forest. I thought they might be Ministry. With Umbridge around, I've gotten good at spotting observers." Luna bit her lip, a gesture so uncharacteristically nervous that Harry felt a jolt of concern. "Luna, are you in some kind of trouble?" "Not exactly." She began pacing, her watermelon shoes making soft thudding sounds against the stone floor. "They shouldn't be here. It's too soon, and with Umbridge watching everything. She turned to Harry. I need you to do something for me. Anything, Harry said automatically, surprised at his own certainty. Luna's expression softened. Always the hero. She reached into her robe and pulled out what looked like a small silver coin. If you see any of those people again, squeeze this and think of me. Don't approach them, don't let them see you watching. Harry took the coin. It felt strangely warm, with symbols he didn't recognize etched around its edge. What is it? A link, Luna said cryptically. And a warning system. She moved to the door, then paused. Harry, thank you. Not many people would notice those watchers. You see more than others give you credit for. Before he could respond, Luna dispelled whatever privacy charm she'd cast and slipped out the door, leaving Harry alone with more questions than answers and a coin that seemed to pulse gently against his palm. The next DA meeting was in full swing when Harry noticed Luna doing something odd. Again. The room of requirement had provided them with practice dummies for stunning spells, and most students were taking turns blasting them backward. But Luna stood slightly apart, her wand movements subtly different from the others. When she cast Stupefy, her dummy didn't just fall backward, it froze in position, then slowly disintegrated into a shower of silver sparks before reforming. How are you doing that? Ginny asked, noticing the effect. Luna blinked innocently. Oh, am I doing something wrong? Not wrong, Harry said, walking over. Just different. That's not what Stupefy normally does. Isn't it? How interesting. Luna cast again, and this time the dummy reacted normally, toppling backward like everyone else's. Perhaps I was just visualizing differently. Harry caught her eye, and she gave him the faintest headshake. Not here. After dismissing the meeting, Harry hung back, pretending to organize some books while the others filed out. Luna lingered as well, examining a bookshelf with apparent fascination. When they were alone, Harry asked, another family tradition? Something like that. Luna turned to face him. Intent matters in magic, Harry. More than words or wand movements. The wizards who created the spells we use had specific intentions that shaped how the magic manifests. And if you have different intentions? Luna smiled. Then sometimes the magic responds differently. She demonstrated with a simple lumos, but instead of the usual light at her wand tip, tiny luminous butterflies erupted and fluttered around them. I was thinking about flight and transformation, not just illumination. That's. Harry watched the light butterflies circle them. That's brilliant, Luna. It can be dangerous, though, she warned, extinguishing the spell. Magical intent without proper focus or training can cause unpredictable results. That's why they teach standardized spells at Hogwarts. Harry remembered the strange staff she'd used in the forest. Is that why you had a different wand that night? Luna tensed slightly. You're very observant for someone who was supposedly hidden. Sorry. Don't be. It's a quality I value. She sighed. The staff is a family heirloom. It channels magic differently. More directly. Harry wanted to ask more, but Luna glanced at her watch, which appeared to have 13 numbers and 3 hands moving in different directions, and looked startled. I need to go. I have a thing. A thing? A very important thing involving the phase of the moon and certain obligations that cannot be postponed. Luna headed for the door, then paused. Harry, do you still have the coin? He pulled it from his pocket. Right here. Good. Keep it close. She hesitated, then added, and Harry? If you happen to be near the astronomy tower at midnight, you might find the view particularly interesting tonight. With that cryptic invitation, she was gone. Harry had no intention of missing whatever was happening at the astronomy tower. He arrived at 11:45, hidden under his invisibility cloak, and found a shadowy corner with a good view of the platform. At precisely midnight, the door opened and Luna entered. She wore a simple white dress instead of her school robes, her hair braided with what looked like tiny crystals that caught the moonlight. She carried a small wooden box and moved with a deliberate grace Harry had never seen in her usually dreamy wandering. Luna placed the box in the center of the tower and opened it, revealing something that glinted silver in the moonlight. She straightened and raised her arms toward the full moon overhead. Lunaris solemnium, she intoned, her voice deeper and more resonant than normal. On this, the 15th anniversary of my birth under your light, I renew my covenant. The silver object in the box began to glow, and Luna lifted it out, a delicate tiara set with moonstones. She placed it on her head, and instantly, the air around her shimmered. Luna began to speak in a language Harry didn't recognize, musical and flowing, with words that seemed to ripple through the air like water. As she spoke, the moonlight intensified around her, forming a column of silver light. Within that column, Luna changed. Her features remained the same, but something about her presence shifted. She stood straighter, moved with more authority, and the dreamy quality that always surrounded her transformed into something more purposeful, a contained power rather than an absent drifting. Luna removed the tiara and knelt, holding it up to the moon. I accept my responsibility and my birthright. May I prove worthy of both. The moonlight flared once, blindingly bright, then returned to normal. Luna carefully placed the tiara back in the box, closed it, and stood. And looked directly at where Harry stood hidden. You can come out now, Harry, she said softly. I know you're there. Sheepishly, Harry pulled off the invisibility cloak. How did you know? The cloak hides you from sight, not from sense. Luna didn't seem upset at his spying. If anything, she looked relieved. I rather hoped you'd come. What was that? Harry gestured at the box, the lingering energy still making the hairs on his arms stand up. A birthday ritual? Luna nodded. Among other things. In my family, the 15th birthday marks a transition. She picked up the box carefully. I can't explain everything yet, Harry. But I will. Soon. Does this have something to do with those people watching you? Luna's expression darkened slightly. Yes. Have you seen them again? The man with silver hair was watching during Quidditch practice yesterday. I used the coin like you showed me. I know. It worked perfectly. Luna stepped closer. Thank you for respecting my request not to approach him. Harry shrugged. You asked. It seemed important. Luna studied him with an intensity that made him slightly uncomfortable. You're a rare person, Harry Potter. Most would have demanded explanations or tried to investigate on their own. Well, I am curious, Harry admitted. But I trust you. Luna's smile was like sunrise after a long night. That means more than you know. She held out her free hand. Walk me back to Ravenclaw Tower. Harry took her hand, surprised again by the strange tingling sensation that passed between them. As they walked through the silent castle, he found himself noticing things about Luna he'd overlooked before, the graceful way she moved, the subtle confidence behind her eccentric facade, and most of all, the watchful intelligence in her silver eyes. Whatever secret Luna Lovegood was keeping, Harry was increasingly certain it was extraordinary. The following weeks brought an unexpected development. Harry and Luna began spending more time together. It started with occasional study sessions in the library, then progressed to walks around the lake between classes. Luna remained mysterious about her ritual and the strange magic Harry had witnessed, but in other ways, she opened up to him. She told him about expeditions with her father, shared her mother's experimental spell work that had led to her death, and listened with genuine interest to Harry's experiences. Have you ever thought, Luna asked one afternoon as they sat beneath a beech tree by the lake, that your connection to Voldemort might be more than just the night he tried to kill you? Harry looked up from the Transfiguration essay he was struggling with. What do you mean? Magic leaves traces, Luna said, weaving long grass into a complex pattern as she spoke. Especially powerful magic between powerful people. And sometimes those traces create channels, links between souls or minds. Like the coin you gave me? Luna nodded. Something like that, though much more primal and uncontrolled. She finished her grass weaving, which had somehow become a perfect miniature replica of Hogwarts. The mind is a palace with many rooms, Harry. But palaces can have hidden passages connecting them to other structures. Passages neither builder intended. Harry frowned. You think Voldemort and I have some kind of passage between us? I think it's possible. Luna placed her grass Hogwarts carefully on the ground between them. And if so, passages work both ways. You mean he could be looking back at me? The thought sent a chill through Harry despite the warm day. Perhaps. But that's not the important question. What is? Luna locked eyes with him. The important question is, can passages be closed or controlled by those who discover them? Harry sat up straighter. You think I could learn to control this connection? I think, Luna said carefully, that certain types of magic specialize in connections between minds and souls. Magic not commonly taught at Hogwarts. Your family magic. Luna neither confirmed nor denied, simply tilting her head thoughtfully. There are exercises, meditation techniques, that might help. If you're interested. I am, Harry said immediately. The dreams and visions had been getting worse, and the idea of gaining some control appealed strongly. It requires discipline, Luna warned. And trust. I trust you, Harry said again, surprised at how easily and completely he meant it. Luna's smile was brilliant. Then we'll begin tomorrow. As they gathered their things to return to the castle, Harry noticed something odd about Luna's grass model of Hogwarts. Tiny figures moved within it, including two that sat exactly where he and Luna were positioned by the lake. Before he could comment, a voice interrupted them. Well, isn't this cozy? Umbridge stood several yards away, her toad-like face set in a saccharine smile. Mr. Potter and Miss Lovegood, enjoying the fine weather? Yes, Professor, Luna said, standing smoothly. We were just discussing gulping plimpies and their effect on underwater architecture. Umbridge's smile tightened. Indeed. And I suppose those illegal meetings you've both been attending involve similar intellectual pursuits? Harry tensed, but Luna placed a warning hand on his arm. I'm not sure what meetings you're referring to, Professor, she said dreamily. Though I did attend a fascinating lecture on moonphase gardening last weekend in Hogsmeade. Would you like me to share my notes? The effect of lunar cycles on dirigible plums is particularly enough, Umbridge snapped. Her gaze fell on the grass model of Hogwarts, which had mysteriously stopped moving. What's this? Just a bit of weaving, Luna said. My mother taught me. It helps focus the mind against Raxpert infestation. Umbridge's eyes narrowed, but finding nothing obviously prohibited, she returned her attention to Harry. Mr. Potter, your recent associations concern me. Certain students carry undesirable influences. Harry felt a surge of protective anger. Luna's influence has been nothing but positive, Professor. Has it? Umbridge's gaze flicked between them. Interesting that you immediately assumed I meant Miss Lovegood. Guilt often speaks loudest when unprompted, Mr. Potter. She began walking back toward the castle, then paused. Oh, and Miss Lovegood? The 3 visitors who've been asking about you have been informed that all meetings with students must be approved through my office. Educational Decree number 26 is quite clear on the matter. After Umbridge departed, Harry turned to Luna in alarm. She knows about your visitors. It seems so. Luna's dreamy demeanor had vanished, replaced by sharp calculation. This complicates things. Who are they, Luna? Really? Luna sighed. Envoys from home. They weren't supposed to make themselves so obvious. She glanced toward the forbidden forest. I need to send a message. Tonight. I'll come with you. Luna shook her head. Too dangerous with Umbridge watching us both. She gathered her books. Keep the coin close, Harry. And if anything unusual happens, anything at all, use it immediately. As they walked back to the castle, Harry noticed Luna scanning the grounds with unusual intensity. What are you looking for? Not what, she murmured. Who? Harry followed her gaze and spotted a flash of blue disappearing around the greenhouse, the silver-haired man. One of your visitors. Yes. That's Cassius. He's supposed to be my advisor, but apparently he's forgotten how to be subtle. Luna's voice held an edge Harry had never heard before. He's going to get us all exposed if he's not careful. Exposed as what, exactly? Luna gave him a measured look. That's the question, isn't it? She squeezed his hand quickly. Soon, Harry. I promise. The Weasley twins' spectacular exit from Hogwarts provided a welcome distraction from the increasing tension. As fireworks continued to explode randomly throughout the castle days later, Harry found himself actually laughing for the first time in weeks. Brilliant bit of magic, he said to Hermione as they watched Filch chase a Catherine Will down the corridor. Fred and George outdid themselves. Yes, well, let's hope their shop is worth sacrificing their education, Hermione sniffed, though Harry noticed she was fighting a smile. Ron grinned. Course it is. They've already got orders coming in from as far as Romania. Charlie says everyone at the Dragon Reserve wants their shield hats. As they turned a corner, Harry nearly collided with Luna, who was standing perfectly still in the middle of the hallway, staring at the ceiling with unusual focus. Luna? Hermione asked cautiously. Are you all right? Luna didn't respond, her eyes tracking something none of them could see. Harry felt a prickle of unease and instinctively reached for the silver coin in his pocket. The moment his fingers touched it, Luna blinked and looked directly at him. Hello Harry, Ron, Hermione. Lovely day for a dimensional convergence, isn't it? Ron snorted. What's she on about now? Harry, however, noticed Luna's hand making a subtle gesture toward her left. Following her direction, he spotted the scarred woman from Luna's mysterious trio of watchers, partially hidden behind a statue. Yeah, beautiful day, Harry agreed casually. We were just heading to Charms. Want to walk with us, Luna? That would be lovely. Luna fell into step beside him, and as they walked, she whispered, the coin activated. Well done. What's happening? Harry murmured back. They're getting impatient. The council wants me to return for the selection ceremony, but I've told them it's not time yet. Luna's voice was barely audible. Things are happening faster than they should. Ron and Hermione walked ahead, arguing about the ethics of the twins' departure, oblivious to the intense conversation behind them. Selection ceremony? Harry asked. Luna glanced around, then pulled Harry into an alcove, letting Ron and Hermione continue without them. She withdrew her wand and cast what Harry now recognized as her enhanced privacy charm. My 15th birthday wasn't just a milestone, Harry. It marks the beginning of a year-long process. By my 16th birthday, I must. She hesitated, make a choice that will affect many lives beyond my own. What kind of choice? Luna's silver eyes seemed to look through him rather than at him. The choice of who will rule beside me. The words hung in the air between them, laden with implications Harry couldn't fully grasp. Rule, he repeated slowly. Luna, who are you? Really? Luna took a deep breath. I am Luna Lovegood, daughter of Xenophilius and Pandora. I am a Ravenclaw student who believes in creatures others mock. I am your friend. She paused, then straightened slightly. And I am also the crown princess of Crescent Hollow, heir to the silver throne and keeper of the boundary between magical realms. Harry stared at her. You're a princess. That's the simplest translation, yes. Luna smiled faintly. Though our concept of royalty differs somewhat from the Muggle understanding. But, how? Where? Crescent Hollow exists in what you might call a pocket dimension, adjacent to this world but separate. For centuries, my family has governed the boundary between realms, maintaining the balance between different forms of magic. Luna twisted a strand of hair nervously. Our tradition requires heirs to spend time in other magical communities before taking the throne, to gain perspective. My mother arranged for me to attend Hogwarts, as she did before me. Harry's mind raced, connecting dots he hadn't even realized were related. The strange magic, the visitors, the crown at your birthday ritual. Yes. Though I wasn't supposed to be doing quite so much strange magic where others might notice. Luna looked sheepish. Mother always said my curiosity would expose us someday. Why tell me now? Harry asked. Because time is running short, Luna said gravely. Something is happening in Crescent Hollow, something that threatens both our worlds. The envoys were sent to bring me home, but I can't leave yet. She hesitated, then added softly, and because I trust you, Harry Potter. Perhaps more than I should. Before Harry could respond, a tremendous crash echoed from somewhere above them. Luna's privacy charm shattered like glass. That wasn't a Weasley firework, Harry said, drawing his wand. Luna nodded, her own wand already in hand. No, it wasn't. They ran toward the sound, rounding a corner to find the corridor ahead filled with swirling black smoke. Within it, two figures dueled, the silver-haired man, Cassius, and a hooded opponent whose spells crackled with sickly green energy. Cassius! Luna cried, rushing forward. The hooded figure turned at her voice, and Harry caught a glimpse of a pale, aristocratic face beneath the hood before the man cast a spell directly at Luna. Protego! Harry shouted, throwing himself in front of her. The shield charm expanded just in time, catching the curse and reflecting it into the ceiling, which cracked ominously. Cassius took advantage of the distraction to launch a counterattack, his wand movements unlike any Harry had seen. The air itself seemed to warp around his spells. Get her out of here! Cassius shouted at Harry. Now! The hooded figure laughed, a cold, cultured sound. The princess cannot run forever, he called. Crescent Hollow falls further into chaos while you hide among these lesser wizards, lunar daughter. Luna stepped forward, and Harry felt a surge of power emanate from her. The crystal staff from the forest appeared in her hand, replacing her wand. I am not hiding, Noctis, she said, her voice resonant with authority. And you are trespassing in a realm where you have been forbidden. Luna, no. Cassius shouted. Not here, the exposure, too late. Luna raised her staff, and moonlight, impossible, indoors moonlight, streamed from its tip, coalescing into a shimmering barrier between them and the attacker. The man called Noctis snarled and cast a spell of deepest black that crashed against Luna's moonlight shield. The collision sent a shockwave through the corridor, shattering windows and knocking Harry to his knees. When he looked up, Noctis was gone. Cassius leaned heavily against the wall, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Princess, he gasped. You shouldn't have revealed yourself. He gave me little choice, Luna replied, the staff vanishing from her grasp. She helped Cassius straighten. How did he find us here? Traitor in the court, Cassius said grimly. The council is divided over your delayed return and your unconventional interests. His eyes flicked to Harry. Luna turned to Harry, her expression troubled. I'm sorry you had to learn everything like this. Who was that? Harry asked, still trying to process the fact that dreamy, odd Luna Lovegood was apparently royalty from another dimension. Lord Noctis, Luna said. Exiled from our realm for attempting to seize the throne during my parents' early reign. He believes our policy of separation between magical worlds is outdated. He wants to unite all magical realms under his rule. Starting with yours, Harry guessed. Luna nodded grimly. With Crescent Hollow's dimensional magic, he could force open pathways between worlds that were never meant to connect. Footsteps sounded in the distance, many footsteps, running toward them. Umbridge, Harry warned. And probably Filch. Cassius straightened painfully. I'll lead them away. You two get somewhere safe. He turned to Luna. Princess, after this attack, the council will demand your immediate return. I know, Luna said. But I can't leave, not yet. Not until, she glanced at Harry. Cassius followed her gaze, his expression softening slightly. So the rumors are true. You've chosen. I'm considering options, Luna said diplomatically. Cassius bowed slightly, wincing at the movement. Then I'll buy you time, princess. But be careful. Noctis won't stop with one attempt. With a complex wand movement, Cassius vanished the smoke and repaired the worst of the corridor damage. Then he transformed his robes into Hogwarts professor attire and strode confidently toward the approaching footsteps. Luna grabbed Harry's hand. This way, quickly. She pulled him through a tapestry he'd never noticed before, into a hidden passage that didn't appear on the Marauder's map. They ran through winding corridors until they emerged near the room of requirement. Luna paced rapidly before the wall, and a door appeared. Inside was a simple room with 2 comfortable chairs before a fire. When the door closed behind them, Luna sank into one of the chairs, suddenly looking exhausted. The regal bearing she'd displayed in a confrontation with Noctis faded, leaving her appearing younger and vulnerable. So, Harry said, taking the other chair. You're a princess. Luna's laugh held little humor. Yes. Surprise. And there's an exiled lord trying to kidnap you. Essentially. And your royal council wants you to come home to choose someone to rule beside you. Luna met his eyes steadily. Yes. By tradition, the heir to Crescent Hollow must choose an eternal king or queen by their 16th birthday. Someone whose magic and spirit complement their own. And that's why those envoys have been watching you. To see who you might choose. Luna nodded. The council expected me to select from among our nobility. They sent observers to ensure I wasn't being influenced by outsiders. The implication hung in the air between them. Luna, Harry said carefully. Am I an outsider they're worried about? Luna's smile was small but genuine. What do you think, Harry Potter? Before he could answer, the silver coin in his pocket began to burn. Luna tensed, pulling out a matching coin from her own robe. Something's wrong, she whispered. The door to the room of requirement burst open. Hermione stood there, breathless and terrified. Harry, Luna, thank goodness. Umbridge has caught the DA. Somebody betrayed us. She's got Dumbledore's army's membership list, and they've taken some students to her office, including Ginny and Neville. Harry and Luna exchanged one loaded glance before jumping to their feet and racing after Hermione. Whatever revelations remained would have to wait. The princess's secret was out, at least to Harry. But as they ran through the corridors of Hogwarts, Luna's hand firmly in his, Harry realized that nothing had really changed. Princess or not, Luna was still Luna. And he would stand beside her against whatever threats came their way, from this world or any other. Chaos reigned in the aftermath of Dumbledore's dramatic escape. With the headmaster gone and Umbridge installed in his place, Hogwarts took on a distinctly oppressive atmosphere. The inquisitorial squad strutted through hallways, docking points at the slightest provocation, while educational decrees multiplied daily. Through it all, Harry found his friendship with Luna deepening into something he couldn't quite define. The revelation of her royal status should have created distance, but instead, it forged a stronger connection. Luna no longer had to hide her true nature from him, and Harry discovered he enjoyed the glimpses of the princess beneath the eccentric exterior. They met in secret, using the room of requirement or secluded areas of the grounds. Luna began teaching Harry meditation techniques to help control his mental connection to Voldemort, and Harry found himself sleeping better than he had in months. It's about creating boundaries, Luna explained during one session. Imagine your mind as a series of rooms. Some are public spaces where anyone may enter. Others are private chambers that require invitation. Harry sat cross-legged across from her, eyes closed in concentration. And the connection to Voldemort is like a hidden door I never knew existed? Exactly. Luna's voice guided him gently. You can't remove the door completely, it's built into the structure now. But you can learn to lock it from your side, or at least know when someone is trying to enter. Harry focused on visualizing his mental architecture as Luna had taught him. The process was difficult but rewarding. After several weeks, the nightmares decreased significantly. You're a natural at this, Luna told him after a particularly successful session. Most people take years to develop this level of mental discipline. Harry opened his eyes to find Luna watching him with that intense silver gaze that still made his heart skip oddly. I have a good teacher. And strong motivation, she agreed. Fear is a powerful catalyst for learning. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Harry asked the question that had been bothering him since their confrontation with Noctis. Luna, what did Cassius mean when he asked if the rumors were true? About you choosing? Luna's cheeks colored slightly. Ah. That. You don't have to explain if it's private. No, it's just. Luna twisted a strand of hair around her finger. In Crescent Hollow, there are signs believed to indicate compatible magic between potential rulers. Shared dreams, resonant spell effects, physical reactions when magic or touch is exchanged. Harry remembered the tingling sensation whenever Luna took his hand. Like a sort of magical recognition. Something like that, yes. Luna looked slightly embarrassed. When two magically compatible people meet, there's often a sense of familiarity, as if you've known each other in some previous existence. And that's happening with us? Harry asked carefully. Luna met his eyes. I've felt it since we first met, though I tried to ignore it. It's considered rather significant in my culture. So when Cassius asked if the rumors were true about your choice, he was asking if I was considering you as my eternal king, yes. The words hung in the air between them. Harry tried to process what this meant. Him. A king? Of a magical realm he'd never seen. That's why the council is concerned, Luna continued quietly. Traditionally, the royal spouse comes from Crescent Hollow nobility. Someone already familiar with our ways and politics. And I'm just Harry Potter, the boy who lived but knows nothing about being royal, Harry concluded, unsure how to feel about any of this. Luna smiled. No, you're Harry Potter, who sees people for who they really are, who fights for what's right regardless of personal cost, who notices a girl doing strange magic in the forest and approaches with curiosity rather than fear. She reached out and touched his hand lightly. Those are kingly qualities, regardless of where you were born. Before Harry could respond, a silver light materialized between them, forming into a spectral fox, a Patronus, but sent without a caster present. It opened its mouth and spoke in Cassius's voice. Princess, Noctis has breached the castle wards. He's not alone. Find safety immediately. The emergency port key is activated. The fox dissolved, and Luna jumped to her feet, suddenly all business. We need to move. Now. Harry followed her lead, drawing his wand. Where to? Somewhere Noctis won't expect. Luna paced rapidly, and the room of requirement transformed around them. The meditation space disappeared, replaced by what looked like a war room, with maps of Hogwarts on the walls and a table of defensive artifacts. Luna grabbed what looked like a silver compass from the table. Emergency port key to Crescent Hollow, she explained. But I can't leave with Noctis in the castle, he could hurt students trying to find me. We need help, Harry said. The DA, no, Luna cut him off firmly. This isn't their fight, and Noctis's magic would overwhelm them. This is dimensional sorcery, not the kind of magic they're trained to counter. Then what's the plan? Luna hesitated, then made a decision. I need to draw Noctis away from the school. Somewhere isolated where we can confront him without endangering others. We. Harry raised an eyebrow. Yes, we. Luna handed him a small crystal vial filled with silvery liquid. Drink this, it will temporarily attune your magic to dimensional frequencies. It won't give you our abilities, but it will allow your spells to affect beings like Noctis. Harry uncorked the vial without hesitation and downed the contents. Immediately, he felt a strange shifting sensation, as if the world had suddenly gained an extra dimension he could almost, but not quite, perceive. Whoa, he breathed, watching as his own hands seemed to leave slight trails in the air when he moved them. Side effect, Luna explained. Your perception is partially bridging dimensions now. It'll fade in a few hours. She moved to the map of Hogwarts, studying it intently. Noctis will be tracking my magical signature. We can use that, create a false trail leading to the Forbidden Forest. There's a natural dimensional weak point there that I can use to our advantage. The clearing where I first saw you doing that crown ritual. Luna nodded. Exactly. The boundaries between worlds are thinner there. Harry checked the Marauder's map, which he'd taken to carrying constantly. Umbridge is in her office with Filch. Most students are in their common rooms for curfew. He scanned further. Wait, there's someone in the entrance hall who's not labeled. Luna looked over his shoulder. That's him. The map can't identify beings from other dimensions. She pointed to two more unlabeled dots moving through the third-floor corridor. And he brought friends. How powerful is he? Luna's expression was grim. Very. He was my father's chief mage before his exile. He's had years to study forbidden dimensional magic since then. Lovely, Harry muttered. So what's our advantage? Me, Luna said simply. I'm the rightful heir to Crescent Hollow. The realm's magic responds to me in ways it never will to him, no matter how much power he accumulates. She traced a path on the map from their location to the Forbidden Forest. And you? Me? Harry looked skeptical. Noctis believes in purity of magical bloodlines. He'll underestimate you because you're from this realm. Luna smiled grimly. His prejudice is our weapon. They moved quickly, Luna casting a complex spell that created a phantom version of herself, similar to a ghost but more substantial, that headed in the opposite direction from their actual path. That should buy us time, she explained as they slipped under Harry's invisibility cloak together. The castle was eerily quiet as they made their way toward the entrance hall. Twice they had to freeze as Inquisitorial Squad members patrolled past, and once they nearly collided with Peeves, who was busily unscrewing a chandelier. As they reached the entrance hall, Harry felt a cold prickle of awareness, the same feeling he got when danger was near. He pulled Luna to a stop, just as a tall figure stepped out of the shadows ahead. Noctis looked nothing like the hooded attacker from before. He'd discarded his disguise, revealing aristocratic features and long black hair streaked with silver. He wore robes of midnight blue embroidered with star patterns that seemed to move when Harry looked directly at them. Princess, Noctis called softly to the apparently empty hall. I know you're here. I can sense your magic, even hidden beneath that charming invisibility charm. Luna tensed beside Harry, but neither of them moved. Noctis sighed dramatically. Must we play these games? Your father was always direct in his confrontations. Your mother too, for all her brilliance, preferred directness to subterfuge. He waved his hand casually, and Harry felt the invisibility cloak try to pull away from them. Luna grabbed it firmly, muttering something under her breath that seemed to anchor it in place. Impressive, Noctis commented, cocking his head as if listening to something. You've grown stronger, Princess. Perhaps those council fools were wrong to dismiss your time here as wasteful. He began walking directly toward their position, forcing them to shuffle carefully backward. Did you know, he continued conversationally, that half the royal council believes you've chosen a consort from this realm? How deliciously scandalous. The heir to the silver throne, selecting a common dimensional wizard as eternal king. Harry felt Luna's hand tighten on his arm. Personally, Noctis drawled, I find the idea intriguing. New blood might be exactly what our stagnating realm needs. His smile turned cruel. Of course, I'd prefer that new blood came under my guidance, not Xenophilius's outdated leadership. He stopped abruptly, his eyes narrowing. How rude of me. I haven't acknowledged your companion. His gaze fixed directly on Harry despite the cloak. Harry Potter. The boy who lived. Potential consort to our princess. I'm honored. In one fluid motion, Noctis thrust his hand forward. The invisibility cloak flew off them, dissolving into mist before reforming draped over Noctis's arm. A remarkable artifact, he commented, examining the cloak. Dimensional properties unlike anything from your world. I wonder where it originated. Give that back, Harry demanded, his wand pointed at Noctis. Noctis looked amused. Brave. I can see why she's drawn to you. He tossed the cloak aside casually. But bravery alone isn't enough to rule Crescent Hollow, boy. Luna stepped forward, her crystal staff materializing in her hand. He has more than bravery, Noctis. And this isn't about my choice of consort, it's about your treason. Treason? Noctis looked offended. I seek to elevate our realm to its rightful place as the nexus of all magical dimensions. Your family has kept us isolated and hidden for centuries when we should be governing the magical multiverse. There's a reason the dimensions remain separate, Luna countered. The magical dissonance between realms would cause catastrophic instability if forced together. Noctis waved his hand dismissively. A theory never tested. Your mother's research suggested otherwise before her unfortunate accident. Luna went very still. What do you know about my mother's death? Noctis's smile was razor-thin. Only that dimensional experiments can be terribly dangerous when sabotaged. With a cry of rage most unlike her usual dreamy demeanor, Luna thrust her staff forward. A blast of silver-blue energy shot toward Noctis, who deflected it almost lazily, though Harry noticed he stepped back from the force. Now, princess. Temper. Noctis glanced at the main doors. Your phantom self is heading toward the forest. A transparent ploy, but one I'll indulge. Shall we continue this conversation somewhere more scenic? With a mocking bow, Noctis vanished in a swirl of starry darkness. Luna lowered her staff, breathing hard. He's going to the clearing. Was that the plan? Harry asked, retrieving his invisibility cloak. Yes, Luna confirmed. Though I didn't expect him to realize it was a phantom so quickly. She looked troubled. And I didn't know about my mother. If he was involved. Harry squeezed her hand. We'll figure that out later. First, let's deal with him. Luna nodded, visibly pulling herself together. You're right. Come on. They slipped out of the castle, keeping to the shadows as they made their way across the grounds. The night was clear, the full moon providing enough light to navigate by. Harry felt the potion Luna had given him enhancing his senses, the moonlight seemed to have texture, and the air around Luna shimmered faintly with untapped magic. As they entered the forbidden forest, Luna took the lead, moving with surprising confidence through the dense trees. The clearing is about half a mile in, she whispered. Noctis will be waiting. What's the plan? Harry asked, ducking under a low-hanging branch. I'll confront him directly. While he's focused on me, you circle around behind. Luna handed him a small crystal similar to the one in her staff. If you can touch this to him anywhere, it will temporarily bind his dimensional magic. Making him just a regular wizard. Harry guessed, pocketing the crystal. Exactly. Still dangerous, but manageable. As they approached the clearing, Luna stopped and turned to Harry. Whatever happens, stay focused on the plan. Noctis is manipulative, he'll say things to distract you, to make you angry or confused. I can handle it. Luna studied him for a moment, then did something unexpected. She leaned forward and kissed him lightly on the cheek. For luck, she whispered. Now go. Harry circled wide around the clearing, moving as silently as possible through the underbrush. From his position, he could see Noctis standing in the center of the open space, looking completely at ease. Luna stepped into the clearing, staff held before her. You wanted to talk, Noctis. Let's talk. Princess. Noctis bowed slightly. I was beginning to think you'd send another phantom. Why would you think that? Luna asked, her voice carrying the regal tone Harry had heard during her birthday ritual. This is my realm as much as Crescent Hollow. I don't flee from trespassers. Noctis chuckled. Such dignity. You remind me of your mother. He began circling slowly, forcing Luna to turn to keep him in view. The movement brought him closer to Harry's hiding place. She too believed in the sanctity of dimensional boundaries, until her research showed her the possibilities of integration. My mother would never have supported your methods, Luna said firmly. Perhaps not initially, Noctis conceded. But minds can change when presented with evidence. I had hoped to show her my successes, to convince her of the potential. Unfortunately, her experiments reached a critical stage before I could demonstrate the proper approach. Luna's grip on her staff tightened. You sabotaged her work. You caused the explosion that killed her. Noctis spread his hands. I merely accelerated an inevitable outcome. Her approach was flawed, she was trying to create temporary bridges between realms. I knew then, as I know now, that only permanent integration will work. Harry edged closer, the crystal ready in his hand. Just a few more feet. And what about the magical dissonance? Luna demanded, keeping Noctis's attention. The instability that occurs when different magical frequencies are forced together. A temporary adjustment period, Noctis dismissed. Like retuning an instrument. There would be discomfort, certainly. Some magical species might not survive the transition. But the resulting harmony would be worth the sacrifice. Who are you to decide which magical beings are sacrificed? Luna challenged, her voice rising. Noctis's pleasant demeanor slipped, revealing a colder expression beneath. Someone with the vision to see beyond outdated traditions. Your father clings to separation because it maintains his power. One small kingdom is easier to rule than a unified magical multiverse. Harry was almost in position. Just one more step. And of course, you would be the one to rule this unified multiverse? Luna asked sarcastically. Who better? Noctis spread his arms. I've studied dimensional magic for decades. I understand the intricacies of cross-realm governance. With you by my side, Princess, we could, me. Luna's shock was genuine. You think I would join you after what you did to my mother? Noctis smiled thinly. I think you are practical enough to recognize the inevitable. And I'm offering you a choice. Rule with me willingly, and your father and your chosen consort will be treated with respect. His gaze flicked momentarily toward where Harry was hidden. Oppose me, and I cannot guarantee their safety. Harry tensed, realizing Noctis knew he was there. Luna's eyes widened fractionally, she'd caught it too. Now, she shouted, thrusting her staff forward. Harry lunged from his hiding place, crystal extended. At the same moment, Noctis spun, his hand cutting through the air in a complex gesture. A wall of force slammed into Harry, throwing him backward into a tree. Did you really think I wouldn't sense you, boy? Noctis sneered. That potion reeks of dimensional attunement to those who know what to look for. Luna attacked, her staff unleashing a torrent of silver-blue energy. Noctis countered with a shield of swirling darkness that absorbed her attack. The collision of opposing forces sent ripples through the clearing, making the air itself seem to warp and bend. Harry staggered to his feet, winded but determined. The crystal had fallen somewhere in the underbrush. Without it, his magic might not affect Noctis directly, but he could still help Luna. Expelliarmus, he shouted, aiming not at Noctis but at a heavy branch above him. The spell hit the branch with enough force to crack it from the tree. Noctis looked up just in time to leap aside, his concentration broken. Luna took advantage of the distraction, her next spell catching him across the shoulder. Noctis hissed in pain, his robe smoldering where Luna's magic had struck. Clever, he acknowledged. Using the boy as more than just bait. Perhaps he does have potential as your consort. He has a name, Luna said coldly. And more courage and integrity than you could understand. Harry circled around, searching for the dropped crystal while keeping his wand trained on Noctis. The exiled lord's attention flickered between them, calculating. 2 against 1 seems unfair, Noctis commented. With a casual wave of his hand, the air behind him shimmered and tore open. Through the rift stepped 2 figures in dark robes, the same companions Harry had spotted on the Marauder's map. Let me even the odds. The newcomers immediately attacked, one focusing on Luna while the other turned toward Harry. Unlike Noctis, these opponents seemed to rely more on conventional magic, though with extra power behind their spells. Harry ducked a jet of purple light and countered with Stupefy. His opponent deflected it easily but seemed surprised by the force behind Harry's spell. The boy has been enhanced, he called to Noctis. Dimensional attunement. Deal with him quickly, Noctis ordered, engaged in a complex magical duel with Luna. Their spells created a spectacular light show of silver and midnight blue energy, clashing and rebounding through the clearing. Harry's opponent pressed forward, casting increasingly aggressive spells. Harry defended with shield charms and counter curses, using the trees for cover when necessary. The dimensional potion Luna had given him seemed to sharpen his reflexes, allowing him to anticipate his attacker's movements a split second before they happened. Finding an opening, Harry cast in rapid succession, Expelliarmus. Incarcerus. Stupefy. The first spell was blocked, but the quick follow-up caught his opponent off guard. Magical ropes wrapped around the figure, who toppled to the ground as the stunning spell hit them squarely in the chest. Harry turned to help Luna, only to see her second attacker crash into a tree, apparently thrown by one of her spells. Luna herself was locked in intense magical combat with Noctis, both of them now floating several feet above the clearing. The air between them rippled with conflicting energies. Where their spells met, small tears seemed to open in the fabric of reality, showing brief glimpses of other places, a crystal city, a storm-racked sea, a desert of purple sand. You cannot win, Princess, Noctis called. Your power is still developing. Mine has reached its peak. It's not about power, Luna replied, her voice strained but determined. It's about right. As they fought, Harry spotted something glinting in the grass, the crystal Luna had given him. He dove for it, snatching it up just as Noctis unleashed a particularly vicious attack that broke through Luna's defenses. Luna cried out as the spell struck her, her staff slipping from her grasp. She began to fall. Luna! Harry shouted, racing forward. Noctis descended, standing over Luna with triumph in his eyes. A valiant effort, Princess. But ultimately futile. Not quite, Harry said from behind him. Before Noctis could turn, Harry pressed the crystal against his back. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Noctis went rigid, a look of shock crossing his face as the star patterns on his robes froze and dimmed. He tried to raise his hands for another spell, but the motion seemed to require enormous effort. What have you done? He gasped. Luna rose to her feet, reclaiming her staff. Dimensional binding crystal. It temporarily grounds you in this reality, cutting off your access to extra-dimensional energy. Noctis struggled against the invisible constraints, his face contorted with rage. You cannot hold me forever, Princess. And when I break free, you'll face trial in Crescent Hollow for the murder of my mother and attempted overthrow of the rightful crown, Luna finished. She raised her staff, and silver light enveloped Noctis, forming a translucent bubble around him. With the immediate threat contained, Luna turned to Harry. "Are you hurt?" "Nothing serious," Harry assured her, though his back ached where he'd hit the tree. "I'll recover." Luna looked at Noctis's immobilized form with satisfaction. "You did well. The crystal worked perfectly." "Now what?" Harry asked. Luna withdrew the silver compass, the emergency port key. "Now we take him to Crescent Hollow to face justice. And..." She hesitated. "It's time for you to see my home, Harry. If you want to." Harry looked at her, this strange, wonderful girl who had turned out to be so much more than anyone suspected. "Lead the way, princess." Luna smiled, the expression transforming her face from battle-hardened royal to the Luna he'd first befriended. She offered her free hand to Harry, who took it without hesitation. "Hold tight," she instructed. "Dimensional travel feels a bit like being turned inside out while falling upward." "Sounds delightful," Harry said dryly, earning another smile from Luna. She tapped the compass with her staff, and the world around them began to blur and shift. The last thing Harry saw was the forbidden forest dissolving into streams of light as they were pulled into what felt like the space between worlds. Luna Lovegood, Ravenclaw, Oddball, Princess, had invited him into her realm. And Harry Potter, the boy who lived, found himself embarking on yet another unexpected adventure, hand in hand with the most surprising person he'd ever met. The journey to Crescent Hollow had begun. Chapter 2, Crescent Hollow. Harry Potter had experienced some weird stuff in his life. Like, seriously weird. Talking snakes, dementors, flying cars, and let's not even get started on the whole Voldemort business. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared him for dimensional travel. It felt like being sucked through the world's skinniest straw while simultaneously exploding in every direction. Colors he'd never seen before flashed past his eyes. His body seemed to both exist and not exist at the same time. The only constant was Luna's hand gripping his, an anchor in the chaotic between space they hurtled through. Almost there. Luna's voice somehow reached him, though it seemed to come from inside his own head rather than his ears. Just when Harry thought he couldn't take another second of the disorienting journey, reality snapped back into focus, but not the reality he knew. They stood on a circular platform of what looked like mother of pearl, surrounded by, well, Harry wasn't entirely sure what he was seeing. The sky, if you could call it that, shimmered with colors like the inside of a soap bubble, vast and iridescent. Floating islands drifted through this sky, some small as houses, others large enough to hold entire forests. Crystal spires rose from many of these islands, catching the light from what appeared to be multiple suns at different points in the sky. "Welcome to Crescent Hollow," Luna said softly, watching his face with undisguised delight at his reaction. Harry turned slowly, taking it all in. I don't even have words." "Most first-timers don't," Luna laughed. "Don't worry, the dimensional vertigo passes quickly." Only then did Harry realize Noctis was no longer with them. "Where's, the royal guard took him directly to containment," Luna explained, nodding toward a group of figures in silver uniforms who were just disappearing through a doorway in a crystal tower connected to their arrival platform. "The binding crystal will hold until he can be properly tried." Harry barely had time to process this when a commotion erupted behind them. A tall man with long silver hair came rushing across the platform, robes of midnight blue billowing behind him. "Princess!" Cassius exclaimed, looking considerably better than when Harry had last seen him wounded in the Hogwarts corridor. "Thank the moons you're safe." Behind him came an elegant woman with golden hair streaked with silver, wearing a flowing gown that seemed to change colors as she moved. Several other official-looking people followed, all regarding Luna with expressions ranging from relief to barely concealed disapproval. "Mother!" Luna cried, and to Harry's shock, she launched herself into the woman's arms. Harry stood frozen in place. Luna's mother? But her mother had died years ago in a spell accident. Unless... The woman, Luna's mother, held her daughter tightly, then pulled back to examine her. You took an immense risk confronting Noctis directly, she scolded, though her voice was gentle. Your father has been beside himself with worry. We had little choice, Luna replied. He attacked us at Hogwarts. So we've heard, said one of the official-looking people, a stern-faced woman with intricate braids woven through her dark hair. Along with rumors that you've been using royal magic openly among outsiders. Luna straightened, suddenly every inch the princess. Counselor Vega, I did what was necessary to protect both myself and innocent students. And to impress your friend? Counselor Vega's gaze shifted to Harry, who fought the urge to fidget under her scrutiny. Luna's mother turned, seeming to notice Harry for the first time. Her eyes, the exact same silver gray as Luna's, widened slightly. You must be Harry Potter, she said, her voice musical and warm. I am Queen Pandora of Crescent Hollow. She stepped forward and took his hands in hers. Thank you for protecting my daughter. Honestly, she did most of the protecting, Harry admitted, feeling completely out of his depth. Your Majesty, he added hastily. Queen Pandora laughed, a sound remarkably like Luna's. No need for such formality among friends, Harry Potter. Luna has written much about you in her letters. Harry glanced at Luna, who was suddenly very interested in adjusting her sleeve. She has? Indeed. The Queen smiled knowingly. But come, you must be overwhelmed. Let's continue this conversation somewhere more comfortable, and you can tell us how you managed to help capture the most dangerous criminal in Crescent Hollow's recent history. As they moved toward one of the crystal towers, Harry leaned close to Luna. Your mom is alive. But you told everyone at school that she died in a spell accident. Yes, Luna whispered back. It's our standard cover story when royalty returns to Crescent Hollow. Much simpler than explaining dimensional monarchy. But all those times you seemed sad about her were genuine, Luna assured him. Being separated from her for years at a time is difficult. But necessary for my training. Harry's head was spinning, and not just from the dimensional travel. Before he could ask more questions, they entered the crystal tower, which opened into a vast atrium more beautiful than anything Harry had ever seen. The walls were transparent in places, opaque in others, creating patterns that shifted with the changing light outside. Fountains played in the corners, their water seeming to flow upward as often as down. Servants, or Harry assumed they were servants, though their clothing looked fancier than anything the Hogwarts professors wore, appeared with refreshments, fruits Harry had never seen before and drinks that changed color as you sipped them. Please, sit, Queen Pandora gestured to a circle of comfortable floating cushions that adjusted themselves to the perfect height as Harry cautiously sat on one. The various counselors and officials arranged themselves around the circle, while Luna took a position between Harry and her mother. Cassius remained standing slightly behind the Queen. Now, the Queen said, I believe introductions are in order. She gestured to the stern woman who had spoken earlier. Counselor Vega, head of the Royal Council. The dark-haired woman nodded stiffly. Lord Altair, a thin man with calculating eyes and a pointed beard, Minister of Dimensional Affairs. Lady Lyra, a younger woman with kind eyes, Royal Physician and my dear friend. The introductions continued, but Harry soon lost track of the names and titles. Everyone seemed important, and everyone seemed to be studying him with intense interest. When the formalities concluded, Counselor Vega wasted no time addressing the elephant in the room. Your Majesty, while we are all relieved at Princess Luna's safe return and Lord Noctis's capture, we cannot ignore the unprecedented breach of protocol. The princess not only revealed royal magic to an outsider but brought him directly to Crescent Hollow without council approval. The circumstances were exceptional, Luna countered before her mother could respond. Harry proved himself trustworthy and essential to Noctis's capture. Lord Altair's eyes narrowed. And convenient that this outsider happens to be the very one rumored to be your choice for the selection ceremony. Harry felt heat rise to his face as all eyes turned to him again. Queen Pandora raised a hand, instantly commanding attention. The council's concerns are noted, but perhaps we should allow our guest to speak for himself. She turned to Harry with a gentle smile. Mr. Potter, I imagine you have questions of your own. About 1,000,000, Harry admitted, earning a few surprised chuckles from the more friendly-looking counselors. But mainly, what exactly is this place? Luna explained a little, but Crescent Hollow exists in what you might call a pocket dimension, Queen Pandora explained. A realm adjacent to but separate from your world and several others. For thousands of years, my family has ruled here, maintaining the delicate balance between dimensions. Our magic is attuned to the spaces between worlds, Luna added. We can sense disruptions, create controlled passages, and prevent harmful blending of incompatible magical energies. Lord Altair cleared his throat. Which is precisely why we maintain strict isolation and secrecy. If knowledge of our realm became widespread, the consequences could be devastating. Like what Noctis wants to do? Harry asked. Forcing all magical worlds together. The council members exchanged alarmed glances. You told him about Noctis's plan? Counselor Vega asked Luna sharply. Noctis told him himself, during his attempt to kidnap me, Luna replied coolly. Harry deserved to know what he was fighting against. Queen Pandora leaned forward. Harry, what Luna has shared with you must remain absolutely confidential. There are those in your world, not just dark wizards like Voldemort, but even your ministry, who would stop at nothing to access dimensional magic. I understand, Harry said seriously. I won't tell anyone. Then a thought struck him. But Luna mentioned that my mother once visited here. The atmosphere in the room shifted subtly. Queen Pandora's expression softened with something like nostalgia, while several counselors appeared distinctly uncomfortable. Lily Evans was a remarkable witch, the Queen said quietly. And yes, she visited Crescent Hollow once, many years ago. How? Harry asked, leaning forward eagerly. She saved my life, said Lady Lyra, the royal physician. I was conducting research in your world, disguised as a Muggle University student. There was an accident, a car crash, I believe you call it. Lily was nearby and used magic to help me, not realizing I wasn't a Muggle. When she discovered what I truly was, she kept my secret. We invited her here as thanks, Queen Pandora continued. She spent a summer in Crescent Hollow, studying our healing magic. Her aptitude was exceptional. Harry felt a lump form in his throat. This was something about his mother he'd never known, a whole chapter of her life that no one in his world could have told him about. She also, Luna said softly, created a protection spell for me when I was born, combining Crescent Hollow magic with her own sacrificial protection research. Harry turned to her in shock. What? Queen Pandora nodded. Lily and I became close friends. When she learned she was expecting you, and I was expecting Luna, we shared the hopes and fears of new mothers. When she discovered the prophecy about you, she returned briefly to ask for help. We couldn't interfere directly in your world's conflicts, Lord Altair interjected, looking displeased at the revelation. The rules of dimensional separation are absolute. But knowledge can cross boundaries where direct intervention cannot, Queen Pandora countered. What Lily did with that knowledge was her choice, and her magic. Harry sat back, overwhelmed. His mother had been here, in this impossible place. Had learned magic that no one else in his world knew. Had been friends with Luna's mother. Is that why? Harry glanced between Luna and her mother. Is the connection between Luna and me because of our mothers? A loaded silence fell over the gathering. Luna looked simultaneously hopeful and terrified. That, said Queen Pandora carefully, brings us to a subject of some sensitivity. She glanced at the counselors, many of whom were now sitting rigidly straight. The selection. Your Majesty, Counselor Vega began, this is hardly the appropriate forum to, Counselor, the Queen cut her off firmly, Mr. Potter deserves to understand what his friendship with my daughter might entail. Especially given Noctis's targeting of him specifically. She turned back to Harry. In Crescent Hollow, the heir to the throne must choose a consort by their 16th birthday, what we call the eternal king or queen, depending on the gender chosen. This partner shares the throne equally, with complementary magical abilities that strengthen the realm's connection to the dimensional boundaries. Traditionally, Luna added, with a pointed look at the more disapproving counselors, this consort comes from one of Crescent Hollow's noble families. But there is no law requiring it. Just thousands of years of precedent, Lord Altair muttered. Harry's mind raced to catch up. And Luna might choose, me. But I don't have any dimensional magic. That's not entirely accurate, Lady Lyra said, studying him with professional interest. The dimensional attunement potion Luna gave you is still active in your system, and your magical core is adapting to it remarkably well. Most outsiders experience severe discomfort or rejection. Furthermore, Queen Pandora added, your mother's protection spell, combined with your own innate magic, created something unique, a magical signature that resonates with the royal line in a way we've rarely seen. In simple terms, Luna said, meeting Harry's eyes directly, our magic is compatible. Exceptionally so. Harry swallowed hard. So when you said you were considering me as a potential eternal king, you meant it? I did, Luna confirmed. Though I hadn't planned to introduce you to all this quite so dramatically. She shot an annoyed look at Cassius, who had the grace to look sheepish. The emergency port key was a last resort, he defended. Regardless of how we arrived at this point, Queen Pandora interjected smoothly, we are here now. Mr. Potter has helped capture our most dangerous criminal and shown remarkable adaptability to our realm. She rose gracefully from her cushion. I believe a proper welcome is in order. Tonight, we shall hold a celebration in honor of Lord Noctis's capture and our guest's bravery. Several counselors looked ready to object, but the Queen's tone left no room for argument. As the gathering began to disperse, with officials hurrying off to make preparations, Queen Pandora approached Harry. I hope you'll forgive the rather overwhelming introduction to our world, Harry, she said kindly. Luna has always spoken of your adaptability and courage. I can see she wasn't exaggerating. Thank you, Your Majesty, Harry said, still trying to wrap his head around everything. It's just a lot to take in. I imagine so. The Queen's eyes twinkled much like Dumbledore's often did. Luna will show you to guest quarters where you can rest before tonight's festivities. And perhaps answer more of those million questions you mentioned. With that, she swept away, leaving Harry alone with Luna, who was watching him with uncharacteristic nervousness. So, she said, what do you think of my home? Harry looked around at the impossible architecture, the views of floating islands through crystal walls, the subtle magic humming in the very air. It's amazing, he said honestly. Then, with a slight smile, though it explains a lot about you. Luna laughed, the tension breaking. Does it? Good. I was getting tired of pretending to be just an ordinary witch obsessed with imaginary creatures. They're not imaginary here, are they? Harry guessed. Luna grinned. Come on. I'll show you. The guest quarters turned out to be larger than the entire Gryffindor boys' dormitory, with windows that could change their view with a simple thought. Harry spent several minutes just playing with this feature, switching from soaring mountain vistas to underwater seascapes teeming with creatures he'd never imagined. This is brilliant, he said as Luna showed him how to adjust the room's temperature and lighting with similar thought commands. Do all the rooms work this way? Most of them, Luna confirmed, perching on a floating chair that adjusted itself perfectly to her posture. Though the royal suites have additional security features. Harry finally sat down across from her, on a sofa that felt like it was made from clouds. Luna, can we talk about what your mother said? About the selection thing? Luna nodded, suddenly looking serious. I should have explained it more clearly before we arrived. The council's reaction was predictable. They don't want you to pick me. Most of them don't, she agreed. They believe the eternal king or queen should come from Crescent Hollow, someone raised with our traditions and politics. They see outsiders as potentially destabilizing. And what do you think? Luna considered this. I think the purpose of sending heirs to other magical communities is to gain perspective, to learn that different doesn't mean inferior. If we're truly meant to guard the boundaries between dimensions, we should understand all sides, not just our own. She leaned forward. The selection isn't just a political choice, Harry. It's magical. When the heir meets someone with compatible magic, there are signs, physical sensations when magic or touch is exchanged, shared dreams, resonant spell effects. Harry remembered the tingling sensation whenever Luna touched him. Like electricity through your skin. Luna nodded eagerly. Exactly. And have you had any unusual dreams since we became friends? Harry thought about it. I've dreamed about flying over islands floating in the sky. And once about a forest where the trees were made of crystal. Luna's eyes widened. Those are real places here in Crescent Hollow. Places I grew up visiting. She reached out hesitantly and touched his hand. The now familiar tingling passed between them, stronger than before. You see. Compatible magic. But what does that actually mean? Harry asked, trying to make sense of it all. If I were chosen as this eternal king, what would happen? There's a ceremony, Luna explained. The current monarchs, my parents, would step down, and we would take the throne together. Our magic would be bound to the realm and to each other, allowing us to maintain the dimensional boundaries. And we'd stay here. Permanently. Luna bit her lip. Not necessarily permanently. The royal family can travel between dimensions, though we're required to spend most of our time in Crescent Hollow. But Harry, this is all hypothetical. The selection doesn't happen until my 16th birthday. You have time to learn, to decide if this is something you could want. Harry ran a hand through his hair, overwhelmed. It's a lot to take in. Yesterday I was just Harry Potter, trying to pass my OWLS and stay out of Umbridge's detention. Today I'm in another dimension being considered for magical royalty. Luna laughed. When you put it that way, it does sound rather absurd. It's not that I'm not honored, Harry said carefully. It's just, there's so much I don't know about this place, about what being eternal king would mean. Of course, Luna said quickly. I'm not asking for an answer now. That would be ridiculous. She stood up. You should rest before the celebration. I need to meet with my parents and deal with the Noctis situation. She moved toward the door, then turned back. Harry. Thank you for coming here with me. Most people would be freaking out a lot more about all this. Harry grinned. I've learned to roll with the weird stuff. Comes with being the boy who lived, I guess. After Luna left, Harry sprawled back on the cloud-soft sofa, staring up at a ceiling that appeared to be open to a star-filled sky, though he knew intellectually it was just another enchanted window. Eternal King. The title bounced around his mind like a bludger gone mad. On one hand, the idea was laughable, him, royalty. He who had lived in a cupboard for most of his childhood. On the other hand, there was something strangely appealing about belonging somewhere so completely, about having a clear purpose that didn't involve prophecies or dark lords trying to kill him. And then there was Luna herself. Beautiful, strange, brilliant Luna, who saw the world differently from anyone he'd ever known. Luna, who turned out to be a princess from another dimension, yet somehow that made perfect sense. Harry closed his eyes, exhaustion from the dimensional travel and the fight with Noctis finally catching up with him. As he drifted off to sleep, he dreamed of floating islands, crystal spires, and a silver-eyed princess who held his hand as they flew through an impossible sky. Harry. Time to wake up. Harry blinked groggily, disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings until the events of the day came rushing back. Luna stood by the sofa, looking completely transformed. Gone was the somewhat disheveled Hogwarts student with radish earrings and a permanently surprised expression. In her place stood a princess in every sense of the word. Luna wore a gown that seemed woven from moonlight itself, her blonde hair elaborately braided with tiny crystals that caught the light. A delicate silver circlet rested on her head, not the full crown from the ritual Harry had witnessed, but clearly a mark of her status. "Wow," Harry said eloquently, sitting up. "You look different." Luna laughed. "Royal different or weird different?" "Definitely royal," Harry assured her. "Though I kind of miss the radish earrings." Luna touched her ears, which now bore simple silver crescent moon designs. "Me too, actually. But state occasions have dress codes." She gestured to a door that Harry hadn't noticed before. "There are clothes for you in there. Nothing too formal, the council insisted you wear something from your own world for tonight's event." Harry raised an eyebrow. "Another way of marking me as an outsider?" "Precisely." Luna rolled her eyes. "But I added a few touches. You'll see." The few touches turned out to be a set of wizard's robes similar to his Hogwarts ones, but in a deep emerald that matched his eyes, with subtle silver embroidery around the edges that shifted and moved like the stars on Noctis's robes had done. When Harry emerged dressed, Luna nodded approvingly. "Perfect. The dimensional attunement in the fabric will help you navigate some of our more unusual architecture tonight." "Unusual how?" Harry asked warily. Luna just smiled enigmatically. "You'll see. Come on, we're already fashionably late, and Mother hates when we cross the line into rudely late." She led him through crystalline corridors that sometimes seemed to bend at impossible angles, passing windows that showed completely different landscapes despite apparently facing the same direction. Occasionally they would walk through what appeared to be solid walls, emerging somewhere that couldn't possibly connect logically to where they'd been before. "Dimensional shortcuts," Luna explained when Harry commented on this. "The palace exists partially in several dimensional planes at once. The fastest route between 2 points isn't always a straight line." "Clearly," Harry muttered, trying not to get dizzy as they stepped through what looked like a painting of a doorway and emerged onto a vast balcony overlooking an enormous crystal chamber. The celebration was already in full swing below them. Hundreds of elegantly dressed people mingled in a space that seemed larger on the inside than should have been possible given the palace's exterior dimensions. Music played from no visible source, sweet and otherworldly. Floating lights drifted through the air like fireflies, changing color as they passed near different groups of guests. "Ready to make an entrance?" Luna asked, linking her arm through his. "Do I have a choice?" Harry replied, suddenly nervous. "Not really," Luna admitted cheerfully. She raised her free hand, and a chime sounded through the chamber. The crowd below fell silent, all faces turning upward toward them. A disembodied voice announced, "Her Royal Highness, Princess Luna Lovegood of Crescent Hollow, and her honored guest, Harry Potter of the Earth Dimension." Harry felt himself blushing furiously as hundreds of curious eyes examined him. "Earth Dimension," he whispered to Luna as they descended a staircase that materialized beneath their feet with each step. "It's the formal designation," she whispered back. "Would you prefer Terra or Sol 3? "Earth is fine," Harry muttered, trying to look dignified and not at all terrified as they reached the bottom of the stairs. Queen Pandora and a tall, bearded man who could only be Luna's father approached them immediately. King Xenophilius had the same slightly protuberant silver eyes as his wife and daughter, but his hair was pure white and hung to his waist. He wore robes of deep blue with what appeared to be moving constellations woven into the fabric. "Mr. Potter," he said, his voice surprisingly normal compared to his otherworldly appearance. "A pleasure to finally meet you. Luna's letters speak highly of your character." "Thank you, Your Majesty," Harry replied, hoping his nervousness wasn't too obvious. "You have an amazing home." The king smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners just like Luna's did. "Home is where the heart feels at peace, regardless of dimensional location. I hope Crescent Hollow can be one of your homes in time." Before Harry could puzzle out how to respond to this loaded statement, Queen Pandora smoothly interjected, "Come, let us introduce you to our guests. Many have traveled from distant regions of our realm to attend tonight. What followed was a whirlwind of introductions that made Harry's head spin. Noble families with unpronounceable names, diplomats from regions with even more unpronounceable names, scholars, artists, and magical practitioners of every description. Most regarded him with undisguised curiosity, though Harry noticed some of the older nobles watching him with barely concealed disapproval. The traditionalists, Luna murmured when she caught him noticing this. Don't worry about them. They disapprove of everything that's happened in the last 5 centuries. Food and drink appeared as if by thought alone, which, Harry realized, might actually be the case in this place. The cuisine was as strange and wonderful as everything else in Crescent Hollow, fruits that changed flavor with each bite, beverages that shimmered with impossible colors, delicacies that seemed to float above the plate until you touched them with a utensil. Try the lumenberries, Luna suggested, pointing to what looked like glowing blue raspberries. They're my favorite. Harry popped one into his mouth and nearly gasped as an explosion of flavor washed over his tongue, sweet and tart and somehow reminiscent of the sensation of flying high above the Quidditch pitch on a perfect day. These taste like feelings, he said in wonder. Exactly. Luna beamed. They respond to your happiest memories. As the evening progressed, Harry began to relax slightly, especially when the formal dinner portion ended and guests dispersed throughout the chamber for dancing and more casual conversation. Luna stayed by his side, explaining cultural nuances and occasionally rescuing him from particularly nosy nobles with probing questions about his relationship with their princess. Lady Cassiopeia is particularly protective of royal traditions, Luna explained after extracting him from a conversation with an elderly woman who had spent 15 minutes grilling him about his magical lineage. She was my grandmother's selection advisor. I'm starting to see why you preferred Hogwarts, Harry commented, accepting a glass of something shimmering and purple from a passing tray. All the politics here is exhausting. Luna laughed. It is rather intense. But there are wonderful aspects too. She took his hand. Come on, I want to show you something away from all this formality. They slipped through the crowd toward a small door partially hidden behind a column. Luna glanced around to ensure they weren't being watched, then pulled Harry through. The door opened onto a narrow spiral staircase that wound upward, the steps seeming to glow faintly under their feet. When they emerged at the top, Harry found himself on a small, circular platform suspended in open air, with no visible means of support. Below them spread the entirety of Crescent Hollow, floating islands glowing with lights, crystal cities shimmering in the distance, forests of impossibly tall trees with luminous leaves, all beneath a sky where multiple moons of different sizes and colors hung impossibly close. This is my thinking spot, Luna said softly. When court life gets overwhelming, I come here to remind myself what we're protecting. It's incredible, Harry breathed, turning slowly to take in the 360-degree view. I never imagined anything like this could exist. Few do, Luna replied. She leaned against a railing that appeared to be made of solid moonlight. That's part of the problem. Each magical dimension believes it's the only one that matters, or even the only one that exists. Noctis wants to shatter those beliefs by force, causing chaos and destruction in the process. And your family maintains the balance, Harry said, beginning to understand the weight of responsibility Luna carried. Keeping the dimensions separate but connected in controlled ways. Exactly. Luna smiled at him, pleased by his understanding. It's a diplomatic role as much as a magical one. We don't rule through force, we govern through consensus and balance. Harry joined her at the railing, looking out at the breathtaking landscape. And the eternal king or queen shares this responsibility? Yes, Luna said simply. It's a partnership in every sense. The magic works best that way, two complementary forces working in harmony. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Harry asked the question that had been bothering him. Luna, why me? I mean, I know you mentioned compatible magic, but there must be others with compatible magic too. Luna turned to face him fully. There are, yes. But compatibility is just the foundation. The choice itself is based on character, on values, on connection. She hesitated, then continued more softly, "You see people, Harry. Really see them. Not as what they appear to be or what others say they are, but as who they truly are. You saw me at Hogwarts when everyone else looked away. You're pretty hard to miss," Harry said with a small smile. Luna laughed. "I work very hard at that, actually. But you saw past the oddness to the person beneath. And you did it with others too, with Neville, with Dobby, with anyone who needed someone to truly see them." She reached out and touched his cheek gently. "That's what makes a good ruler, Harry. Not power or politics or even magical ability. The capacity to see people for who they are and value them for it." The moment hung between them, charged with something Harry couldn't quite name but could definitely feel, a humming energy like their magics recognizing each other. A sudden explosion of light from below shattered the moment. Harry instinctively reached for his wand as screams echoed from the celebration chamber. "What?" he began, but Luna was already racing for the stairs. "The containment wing," she called over her shoulder. "Something's happened with Noctis." They sprinted down the spiral staircase and through corridors that seemed to rearrange themselves to provide the shortest path to the source of the disturbance. Guards in silver uniforms ran past them, weapons and wands drawn. As they neared what appeared to be a heavily fortified section of the palace, a shockwave of magical energy blasted through the corridor, knocking them both off their feet. The very air seemed to tear open, revealing glimpses of other places, including, Harry realized with a shock, the familiar stones of Hogwarts. "He's breaking through the dimensional barriers," Luna gasped, scrambling to her feet. Her formal gown transformed as she moved, shifting into more practical fighting attire while maintaining its royal aesthetic. The crystal staff materialized in her hand. "Harry, stay back, this is dangerous magic." "Not a chance," Harry replied, drawing his wand. The dimensional attunement potion was still active in his system, making his magic tingle with increased potency. They rounded the corner to find chaos. The containment chamber's doors had been blasted apart. Inside, Noctis stood surrounded by a maelstrom of dark energy, the binding crystal that had neutralized his powers shattered at his feet. Several guards lay unconscious or injured around the room, while King Xenophilius and Cassius desperately maintained a shield barrier around the chamber to prevent Noctis's escape. "How did he break free?" Harry shouted over the howling magical winds. "He must have had help." Luna called back, raising her staff to reinforce her father's barrier. As if in answer to her words, a figure emerged from the shadows behind Noctis, Counselor Vega, her earlier disapproval now transformed into open treachery. "The time for half measures is over," she declared, her voice magically amplified to carry over the dimensional storm. "Crescent Hollow stagnates while other realms advance. Noctis's vision will elevate us all." "Vega, you fool!" King Xenophilius shouted. "You've doomed us all. The dimensions cannot be forced together without catastrophic consequences." Noctis laughed, the sound distorted by the energies swirling around him. "Always so dramatic, Zeno. The consequences are only catastrophic for those who resist change." His gaze fell on Luna, then shifted to Harry. "Ah, the princess and her chosen consort. How fitting that you should witness the dawn of a new era for Crescent Hollow, one where we rule the magical multiverse instead of hiding from it." He raised his hands, and the dimensional tiers in the air widened further. Through them, Harry could see fragments of different worlds, Hogwarts corridors, what looked like the Ministry of Magic atrium, streets of a city that might have been London, and other, stranger vistas he couldn't identify. "He's creating a convergence point," Luna explained rapidly to Harry. "If those portals fully stabilize, beings from multiple dimensions will be pulled through randomly, creating chaos. How do we stop it?" Luna's eyes gleamed with determination. "We need to disrupt his concentration. The spell requires precise focus." Without further discussion, they split up, circling around the edges of the chamber to approach from different angles. The king and Cassius maintained their barrier, keeping the worst of the dimensional energies contained, but Harry could see they were weakening under the strain. Noctis was too focused on his spell to notice their approach. Counselor Vega, however, spotted Harry and sent a blast of energy toward him. Protego! Harry shouted, the shield expanding with unexpected force due to the dimensional attunement. The deflected spell ricocheted into one of the forming portals, causing it to fluctuate wildly. Noctis noticed the disturbance and turned, his face contorting with rage when he saw Harry. You! The outsider who dares to think he can rule here. He abandoned his portal spell momentarily to launch an attack directly at Harry, a stream of energy so dark it seemed to absorb the light around it. Harry dodged, his enhanced reflexes barely fast enough, and countered with Expelliarmus. The disarming charm, powered by the dimensional attunement, struck Noctis with enough force to stagger him, though it didn't disarm him as intended. It did, however, create the opening Luna needed. She appeared behind Noctis, her staff glowing with silver-blue energy. Luminaris bindum, she cried, bringing the staff down in an arc that released a cascade of light. The light wrapped around Noctis like chains, momentarily restraining him. He howled in rage, straining against the magical bindings. Vega, he shouted. Finish the convergence. The traitorous counselor raised her hands to continue the spell, but Harry was faster. Incarcerus, he shouted, directing the spell at her feet rather than her body. Magical ropes wrapped around her ankles, causing her to lose balance and fall, her concentration broken. Without their combined focus, the portals began to destabilize, warping and shrinking. King Xenophilius seized the opportunity, reinforcing his barrier spell to compress the portals further. No! Noctis roared, breaking free of Luna's binding with a surge of power that knocked everyone back. I will not be denied again. He began a new incantation, his voice taking on an otherworldly quality that made Harry's ears hurt. The very fabric of reality seemed to bend around him. He's attempting a forced fusion, Cassius called in alarm. He'll destroy himself and take half the palace with him. Luna scrambled to her feet, her expression determined. Not if I have anything to say about it. She turned to Harry. I need your help. Our combined magic, it might be enough to contain him. What do I do? Harry asked instantly. Take my hand and focus your magic through me, Luna instructed, extending her free hand while raising her staff with the other. Think of boundaries, of separation, of things returning to their proper place. Harry grasped her hand, feeling the now familiar tingling surge into something much more powerful, a current of energy that flowed between them and amplified with each passing second. He focused as Luna had taught him during their meditation sessions, imagining walls between chaotic forces, order restored from disorder. Luna began to glow with silver light, which spread to encompass Harry as well. She raised her staff, and Harry instinctively raised his wand in unison. When they spoke, their voices somehow merged into one. Dementia Restorium. A wave of silver-gold energy erupted from them, expanding outward to envelop the entire chamber. Where it touched the dimensional portals, they sealed shut. When it reached Noctis, he screamed in frustration as his power was once again suppressed. The combined magical surge was so intense that Harry felt his consciousness begin to fray around the edges. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was Luna's face, glowing with power and determination, her eyes locked with his in a moment of perfect magical synchronicity. Harry awoke to the sound of hushed voices and the sensation of floating. He opened his eyes to find himself in what appeared to be a healing chamber, resting on a bed that hovered slightly above the floor. Luna sat beside him, looking tired but unharmed. Welcome back, she said softly when she noticed he was awake. How do you feel? Harry took stock of his body. Nothing hurt exactly, but he felt strangely hollow, as if he'd expended energy he didn't know he possessed. Like I've played 3 Quidditch matches back to back, he decided. What happened? We stopped Noctis, Luna said simply. The dimensional portals are sealed, and he's been placed in a new containment field, one designed specifically to nullify his particular magic. Counselor Vega and 2 other traitors from the council are also in custody. And that spell we did? Harry asked, remembering the incredible surge of power that had flowed between them. Luna's expression grew serious. That was unexpected. Even for compatible magic, that level of synchronicity is extremely rare. She hesitated. The royal mages are still discussing the implications. Before Harry could ask what those implications might be, the door opened to admit Queen Pandora and King Xenophilius. Both looked weary but relieved. "Ah, Mr. Potter, you're awake," the king said. "Excellent. You gave us quite a scare." "How long was I out?" Harry asked. "Just a few hours," Queen Pandora assured him. "Luna recovered more quickly, having been raised with dimensional magic, but you did remarkably well for a first exposure to that level of power." The king approached Harry's floating bed, his expression solemn. "What you and Luna accomplished tonight has not been seen in Crescent Hollow for generations. Perfect magical synchronicity is the rarest form of compatible magic, and the most powerful." Harry glanced at Luna, who was watching him intently. "What does that mean, exactly?" "It means," said Queen Pandora gently, "that the question of Luna's selection may have answered itself tonight, regardless of tradition or council preferences." "The magic has spoken," King Xenophilius agreed. "Even the most traditional members of court cannot deny what we all witnessed." Harry struggled to sit up, suddenly feeling overwhelmed. "Wait, are you saying that because of what happened with Noctis, Luna has to choose me as this eternal king thing?" "No one has to do anything," Luna said firmly, shooting her parents a look. "The selection remains my choice. The synchronicity simply makes the magical case stronger." "Perhaps we should give Mr. Potter some time to rest and process," Queen Pandora suggested, noting Harry's expression. "The feast has been postponed until tomorrow night, given the excitement. We can continue this discussion then." After her parents departed, Luna remained sitting by Harry's side, fidgeting with the edge of her now simple robe. The formal attire from earlier was gone, leaving her looking much more like the Luna he knew from Hogwarts. "I'm sorry about all that," she said after a moment. "My parents can be a bit intense about royal traditions." "It's fine," Harry assured her. "It's just a lot to take in." Luna nodded. "I know. And you should know that despite what they implied, this doesn't force either of us into anything. The selection remains my choice, and accepting would be yours." Harry studied her for a moment. "But that spell we did, you felt it too, right? Like our magic was meant to work together?" "Yes," Luna admitted, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "It was extraordinary. But compatibility doesn't equal obligation." She stood up and began pacing, a nervous habit Harry had rarely seen from her usually serene demeanor. "The truth is, Harry, I've been drawn to you since we first met. Not just because of magical compatibility, but because of who you are. Your kindness, your courage, the way you face impossible things with determination instead of despair." She stopped and turned to face him directly. "But I would never want you to feel trapped by destiny or prophecy or magical compatibility. You've had enough of that in your life already." Harry thought about everything that had happened, not just since arriving in Crescent Hollow, but since the moment he'd first spotted Luna doing strange magic in the Forbidden Forest. In a way, his life had been building toward impossible choices since the night Voldemort had given him his scar. What was one more? Except this didn't feel like the heavy burden of being the chosen one. This felt like possibility. "What if I don't feel trapped?" he asked quietly. "What if I feel like I've found somewhere I might belong?" Luna's eyes widened. "Do you mean that?" "I'm not saying I'm ready to sign up for eternal kingship tomorrow," Harry clarified. "But I'm not running away from the idea either." He managed a small smile. "Besides, I still have about 1,000,000 questions about how all this works." The relief on Luna's face was palpable. She sat on the edge of his floating bed and took his hand. The magical connection between them hummed to life again, gentler than during the battle but undeniably present. "We have time," she assured him. My 16th birthday isn't for months yet. You can learn about Crescent Hollow, about what being eternal king would mean. She hesitated. Though we'll need to return to Hogwarts soon. Our absence will be noticed, especially with Umbridge watching everyone so closely. Harry groaned, reality crashing back. Umbridge. I'd almost forgotten about her with everything else going on. One megalomaniac at a time, Luna said with a straight face, making Harry laugh despite his fatigue. What will happen when we go back? He asked. With Noctis contained, is it safe? Safer, certainly, Luna said. Though the council will insist on guards now that they know traitors were operating within the court. She made a face. I suspect I'll be under royal supervision for the remainder of the term. That'll make DA meetings interesting, Harry commented dryly. Luna laughed. Indeed. Though I think Crescent Hollow security might actually improve our defense training. Some of the spells they know make the Patronus look like a first-year charm. They fell into comfortable conversation, Luna explaining more about Crescent Hollow's history and magical traditions while Harry rested and recovered. The strange hollow feeling gradually faded as his energy returned, though Lady Lyra, who checked in on him periodically, explained that he'd need at least a full day's rest before attempting dimensional travel again. The synchronicity spell you and the princess performed drew heavily on your magical core, she explained. It will replenish naturally, but dimensional travel requires full magical reserves. Harry was secretly relieved at the brief reprieve. As fascinating as Crescent Hollow was, the intensity of everything, from the politics to the magic to the implications of his connection with Luna, left him craving a little time to process. That night, after Luna reluctantly left to attend to royal duties, Harry stood by the window of his healing chamber, looking out at the impossible landscape of floating islands and crystal cities beneath multiple moons. Somewhere out there were answers to questions he hadn't even thought to ask yet. Somewhere out there was a potential future he'd never imagined for himself. And at the center of it all was Luna Lovegood, the strangest, most wonderful person he'd ever met. Princess, witch, friend, and possibly something more. Harry touched the window lightly, watching as it rippled like water under his fingertips. Whatever came next, whether at Hogwarts or in Crescent Hollow, one thing was becoming increasingly clear: his path and Luna's were intertwined now, in ways that transcended ordinary magic. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, he found himself smiling as he turned away from the window and settled back onto his floating bed. For once in his life, destiny didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a choice. The postponed celebration the following evening was both more subdued and more genuine than the formal affair interrupted by Noctis's escape attempt. With the immediate threat contained and the traitors identified, the atmosphere in the crystal chamber was one of actual relief rather than political posturing. Harry, feeling much recovered after a full day's rest, found himself receiving a very different reception from the court nobles and officials. Where before there had been polite skepticism or barely concealed disapproval, now there were respectful nods and curious but not unfriendly glances. Your status has changed dramatically, Luna observed as they made their way through the gathering. She wore a simpler gown tonight, still elegant but less formally royal, and had restored her radish earrings to Harry's amusement. Magical synchronicity makes quite an impression in Crescent Hollow. I've noticed, Harry replied, nodding to a group of younger nobles who had actually bowed as he passed. It's a bit weird, to be honest. Yesterday they looked at me like something Hagrid might keep as a pet. Today they're acting like I'm already wearing a crown. Luna laughed. Court opinions change with the dimensional winds. Don't let it go to your head. No chance of that with you around to keep me humble, Harry assured her with a grin. As they circulated through the celebration, Harry found himself actually enjoying conversations with some of Luna's people. Without the pressure of being sized up as a potential outsider consort, he was free to ask questions about Crescent Hollow and learn about a culture unlike anything in his world. He was particularly fascinated by a group of dimensional scholars who explained how the pocket dimension of Crescent Hollow connected to multiple other magical realms. Your world, the Earth dimension, is one of the more magically diverse realms we monitor, explained an elderly scholar named Professor Orbit. The coexistence of magical and non-magical populations creates unique challenges and opportunities. Is that why Hogwarts students have to hide magic from Muggles? Harry asked. Precisely. Professor Orbit beamed at him like a teacher pleased with a bright student. The separation maintains dimensional stability. Other realms have different arrangements, some are entirely magical, others have different forms of energy altogether. And Crescent Hollow maintains the boundaries between all these different places. Harry clarified, beginning to grasp the enormity of the royal family's responsibility. Yes, through a combination of innate magical ability and technological artifacts, the professor confirmed. The Silver Throne itself is actually a sophisticated dimensional anchor, tuned to the magical signatures of the ruling pair. This explained much about the selection process and the importance of compatible magic. Harry was about to ask another question when a fanfare sounded, and King Xenophilius and Queen Pandora entered the chamber. The crowd parted respectfully as the monarchs made their way to a raised dais at the far end of the room. Luna squeezed Harry's hand briefly before leading him to join her parents. Today, we celebrate not only the containment of a grave threat to dimensional stability, King Xenophilius announced, his voice carrying effortlessly through the vast space, but also a demonstration of the very magic that has protected our realm for generations. He gestured to Luna and Harry. Princess Luna and Mr. Harry Potter displayed perfect magical synchronicity, the rarest and most potent form of compatible magic. This synchronicity enabled them to seal dimensional breaches that might otherwise have caused catastrophic damage. Queen Pandora stepped forward. While the traditional selection ceremony remains months away, the Council has convened and agreed to formally recognize Mr. Potter as an official candidate for the position of Eternal King. Murmurs swept through the assembly. Harry felt dozens of eyes on him, assessing and re-evaluating. Luna stood tall beside him, her expression serene but with a hint of triumph in her eyes. Furthermore, the Queen continued, in light of recent events, the Council has granted Princess Luna permission to begin Mr. Potter's formal introduction to Crescent Hollow governance and magic, should he wish to pursue this path. King Xenophilius turned to Harry directly. Mr. Potter, this is not a commitment to the throne, but rather an opportunity to explore whether such a path might be right for you. Do you accept this opportunity? Harry hadn't expected to be put on the spot so publicly. He glanced at Luna, who gave him a small, encouraging nod, but whose eyes clearly communicated that this was his choice alone. He thought about everything he'd learned in the past 2 days, about dimensional magic, about Luna's world, about the connection between them that had allowed them to perform impossible magic together. He thought about Hogwarts and his friends, about Voldemort and the prophecy that had shaped his life thus far. And then he realized something, for perhaps the first time, he was being offered a choice about his destiny rather than having it thrust upon him. I accept, Harry said clearly, his voice carrying through the suddenly silent chamber. I have much to learn about Crescent Hollow, but I'm honored by the opportunity to do so. The assembly erupted in applause, some enthusiastic, some politely restrained, but all acknowledging the significance of the moment. Luna's smile was radiant as she took his hand publicly, the magical connection between them humming visibly in the air for all to see. Well said, she whispered. Very diplomatic. I'm learning, Harry whispered back with a grin. The celebration continued late into the night, with Harry meeting more of Luna's people and beginning to form connections that might someday serve him well if he did indeed become Eternal King. It was overwhelming but also exhilarating, a glimpse into a possible future he'd never imagined. As the festivities began to wind down, Queen Pandora approached them. You've made quite an impression, she told Harry. Even Lord Altair admitted you handled the Council's questions with unexpected grace. High praise indeed, Luna commented dryly. There is one more matter we must discuss before you return to Hogwarts tomorrow, the Queen said, her expression growing serious. The situation with Umbridge. Harry groaned. I'd almost managed to forget about her again. Unfortunately, we cannot, Queen Pandora said. Her investigation into Luna's visitors and your disappearance will need to be addressed. We've prepared a memory modification plan that will create the impression you both spent the past 2 days in the room of requirement, practicing defense spells. You can do that? Harry asked, impressed. Create false memories across an entire school. Not across the entire school, Luna explained. Just for those who might have noticed our absence. The room of requirement already creates confusion about time and space for those not inside it. Additionally, Queen Pandora continued, we'll be sending Cassius back with you in a more suitable disguise as a distant relative checking on Luna's progress. He'll maintain communication with us and provide protection if needed. You really think Noctis might have more supporters at Hogwarts? Harry asked. The Queen's expression was grave. Noctis's conspiracy appears to have been more extensive than we initially believed. Until we've identified all involved, we must take precautions. She smiled then, her serious demeanor softening. But that's enough serious talk for tonight. Enjoy the remainder of the celebration. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges. After she departed, Luna led Harry to a quieter corner of the chamber. Are you all right with all this? It's a lot to process in just 2 days. Harry considered the question carefully. It's strange, I should be completely overwhelmed. New dimension, magical royalty, political conspiracies, it's like something out of one of those fantasy books Dudley used to get but never read. And yet? Luna prompted. And yet it feels right, somehow, Harry admitted. Like finding a piece of a puzzle I didn't know was missing. He looked at her curiously. Is that the magical compatibility talking? Luna shook her head. Compatible magic can create connection, but not understanding or acceptance. Those come from who you are, not what magic you possess. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. You should know that while we'll be returning to Hogwarts tomorrow, the dimensional boundaries between our worlds have been adjusted to allow for easier travel between them. If you wish to visit Crescent Hollow again, to learn more or simply to escape Umbridge for a few hours, it can be arranged. Secret dimensional getaways? Harry grinned. That would certainly make OWL studying more bearable. I thought you might appreciate that benefit, Luna said with a mischievous smile. Perhaps we could even bring Hermione and Ron to visit sometime. I think Hermione's head might explode at the sight of our libraries. The thought of Hermione's reaction to dimensional magic, and Ron's inevitable bewilderment, made Harry laugh. That would be something to see. As the celebration drew to a close, Harry found himself on another balcony overlooking Crescent Hollow's impossible landscape, this time with Luna at his side and a clearer understanding of what her world represented. We should get some rest, Luna said eventually. Dimensional travel tomorrow, and then straight back to Umbridge's educational dictatorship. Such appealing options, Harry commented dryly. Luna turned to face him fully. Thank you, Harry. For what? For accepting all of this with an open mind. For not running away when you discovered I'd been hiding an entire dimension from you. For helping save my home. Her silver eyes reflected the light of multiple moons. Most of all, for seeing me as both Luna from Hogwarts and Princess Luna of Crescent Hollow, and accepting both as real. Harry reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture natural despite its newness. They're both you. And both are pretty extraordinary. Luna smiled, and for a moment, Harry thought she might lean in closer. Instead, she took his hand, the familiar tingle of their magical connection flowing between them. Come on, she said softly. Tomorrow we face Umbridge, OWL preparations, and whatever new crisis the wizarding world has cooked up in our absence. Tonight, let's just enjoy the peace we've earned. Hand in hand, they walked back through the crystal corridors of a palace that existed between dimensions, a princess and a boy who might someday be king, united by magic that transcended the boundaries between worlds. Their return to Hogwarts was considerably less dramatic than their departure. Luna created a dimensional passage directly into the room of requirement, where they emerged to find everything exactly as they'd left it 2 days earlier, or what appeared to be 2 days in Crescent Hollow time. What day is it here? Harry asked, disoriented by the transition. Luna checked a pocket watch that seemed to have too many hands for Harry to make sense of. We've been gone approximately 4 hours in Hogwarts time. It's still the same evening we left. Dimensional time differences, Harry marveled. Convenient. Very, Luna agreed. Though we can't rely on it consistently. Sometimes the time flows match exactly, other times they diverge significantly. Cassius, now disguised as a distinguished middle-aged wizard with a neatly trimmed beard and conservative robes, adjusted his appearance one final time in a mirror the room had provided. Remember, he instructed, I am Percival Lovegood, Luna's second cousin twice removed, here to check on her academic progress at her father's request. And coincidentally interested in advanced defensive magic techniques, Luna added. Which explains your attendance at any DA meetings. Precisely. Cassius straightened his robes. I've taken a room at the Three Broomsticks but have permission from Dumbledore, obtained through diplomatic channels before his departure, to visit regularly. Harry was impressed with the thoroughness of the cover story. What about Umbridge? The appropriate ministry paperwork has been filed, Cassius said with a slight smirk. We have certain contacts within your ministry who owe favors to Crescent Hollow. They agreed to meet again the following day, with Cassius departing first to establish his presence in Hogsmeade before making his official arrival at the castle the next morning. Once alone, Harry and Luna looked at each other somewhat awkwardly, the grandeur and intensity of Crescent Hollow suddenly seeming very far away in the familiar setting of Hogwarts. So, Harry said, back to normal. Or as normal as things ever get around here. Luna smiled. As normal as possible, yes. Though perhaps with slightly less pretending not to know each other. I never pretended not to know you, Harry objected. No, but you did treat me with the careful politeness one reserves for people they find slightly alarming, Luna pointed out without rancor. Harry winced, recognizing the truth in her observation. That was before I knew you properly. And now? Luna asked, her head tilted curiously. Now I know you're completely alarming, but in the best possible way, Harry replied with a grin. Luna laughed, the sound lighter and more carefree than he'd heard in Crescent Hollow. A fair assessment. We should go before curfew. I suspect we've used up our quota of rule-breaking for at least the next 24 hours. They made their way cautiously through the corridors, separating at the point where they needed to head to their respective common rooms. Good night, Eternal King Candidate, Luna whispered teasingly. Good night, Princess, Harry whispered back, and was rewarded with her radiant smile before she disappeared down the corridor toward Ravenclaw Tower. The following weeks brought a strange new rhythm to Harry's life at Hogwarts. On the surface, everything continued as before, classes, OWL preparation, Umbridge's increasingly oppressive educational decrees, and secret DA meetings. But beneath that familiar routine ran an undercurrent of the extraordinary. Twice a week, Harry would slip away to the room of requirement where Luna and Cassius, in his guise as Percival Lovegood, taught him the basics of dimensional theory and the specific responsibilities of Crescent Hollow's rulers. The silver throne isn't just symbolic, Luna explained during one such session. It's actually an incredibly advanced magical artifact that helps stabilize the dimensional boundaries. Think of it as a control center, Cassius added. From there, the monarchs can sense disturbances in any connected dimension and direct energy to strengthen weakened boundaries. Occasionally, when they could be certain of not being missed for a few hours, Luna would create a dimensional passage to take Harry back to Crescent Hollow for more practical instruction. The time differential usually worked in their favor, allowing what felt like days of learning to occur in the span of an evening at Hogwarts. Harry found himself absorbing knowledge at a rate that would have made Hermione proud: dimensional theory, the political structure of Luna's realm, the magical techniques unique to boundary maintenance. Some concepts came naturally to him, while others remained frustratingly abstract. Don't worry about mastering everything at once, Luna assured him after a particularly challenging lesson on dimensional attunement. If you do become Eternal King, the coronation ceremony itself enhances your natural abilities. That's cheating, Harry commented, only half joking. Luna smiled. Think of it as magical training wheels. They help at first, but eventually your own abilities take over completely. The strangest part of this new double life wasn't the dimensional travel or the complex magic or even the prospect of potential royalty. It was maintaining the appearance of normalcy with his friends. Ron and Hermione had noticed the change in his friendship with Luna. It would have been impossible not to, but neither had any idea of the full truth. Harry hated keeping secrets from them but understood the necessity. The fewer people who know about Crescent Hollow, the safer everyone remains, Luna had explained. Especially with Noctis's remaining supporters still unidentified. Still, the deception weighed on him, especially when Hermione cornered him in the common room one evening after he'd returned from a study session with Percival Lovegood. "What's going on with you and Luna?" she asked directly. "And don't say, nothing, I'm not blind, Harry." Harry chose his words carefully. "We've become closer. She's helping me with some advanced magic that might help against Voldemort." It wasn't entirely a lie. The dimensional techniques he was learning had applications far beyond Crescent Hollow, including mental shields considerably more sophisticated than anything Snape had attempted to teach him. Hermione studied him for a moment. "There's more to it than that, isn't there? You look at her differently now." Harry felt heat rise to his face. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." Hermione's expression softened. "It's okay, you know. Luna may be unconventional, but she's also brilliant in her own way. And she sees you, really sees you, not just the boy who lived." The accuracy of Hermione's assessment hit uncomfortably close to what Luna herself had said about him. "It's complicated," he finally admitted. "Relationships usually are," Hermione said with surprising gentleness. "Just be careful. With Umbridge watching everyone and Voldemort out there somewhere, complicated can quickly become dangerous." She had no idea how right she was. The situation at Hogwarts continued to deteriorate as Umbridge tightened her grip on the school. With Dumbledore gone and the Inquisitorial Squad empowered to enforce increasingly ridiculous educational decrees, the atmosphere grew more oppressive by the day. Through it all, the DA continued to meet, with Percival Lovegood occasionally offering insights that members attributed to his supposed work in international magical defense. The Room of Requirement became not just a training ground but a sanctuary from Umbridge's regime. It was after one such meeting, as members were leaving in their usual staggered pattern, that disaster struck. Harry was reviewing the lesson plan with Hermione when the door burst open and Draco Malfoy stood there, flanked by Crabbe, Goyle, and several other Inquisitorial Squad members. Well, Malfoy drawled, his prefect badge gleaming alongside the eye of the Inquisitorial Squad. "What have we here? An illegal gathering, perhaps?" Harry's heart sank. The few remaining DA members froze like deer in wand light. Educational Decree No. 24 clearly prohibits unauthorized student organizations, Malfoy continued, clearly relishing the moment. "I'm afraid you'll all have to come with me to the High Inquisitor's office." Hermione stepped forward, her voice remarkably steady. "This is a study group for defense against the dark arts OWLS, which is perfectly permitted under Educational Decree No. 27, Section 4, regarding exam preparation." Malfoy's smile widened unpleasantly. "A nice try, Granger, but we have testimony stating otherwise. Specifically regarding an organization calling itself Dumbledore's Army. He held up a familiar piece of parchment, the membership list Hermione had created months ago. Harry's blood ran cold. Someone had betrayed them. As the Inquisitorial Squad began rounding up the remaining students, Harry caught sight of Luna standing quietly in the corner. Their eyes met briefly, and she gave an almost imperceptible nod toward the far wall, where a door had appeared that hadn't been there before. Understanding instantly, Harry created a distraction. "Malfoy, this is between you and me. The others were just following my lead." As Malfoy turned his attention fully to Harry, Luna slipped through the hidden door with several younger students. Harry hoped she'd be able to get them safely away before being caught herself. The march to Umbridge's office was grim and silent. Harry, Hermione, Ron, and 4 other DA members who hadn't escaped were herded along by the triumphant inquisitorial squad. To Harry's relief, Luna wasn't among the captured. Umbridge was waiting in her office, her toad-like face stretched in a wide, satisfied smile that made Harry's skin crawl. "Mr. Potter," she simpered. "How unsurprising to find you at the center of this seditious activity." What followed was one of the most unpleasant interrogations Harry had ever endured, and considering his history, that was saying something. Umbridge alternated between saccharine false concern and naked threats, demanding to know Dumbledore's whereabouts and the full extent of the DA's activities. Through it all, Harry maintained that the group was nothing more than a study circle for concerned OWL students, despite the damning evidence of the membership list with Dumbledore's Army emblazoned across the top. The situation seemed hopeless until an unexpected interruption came in the form of Percival Lovegood, who swept into the office with impressive authority. "Professor Umbridge," he said smoothly. "I apologize for the intrusion, but I've just received an urgent communication from the ministry regarding these students." Umbridge looked startled by his appearance. "Mr. Lovegood, this is a school disciplinary matter that does not concern, on the contrary," Cassius interrupted, producing an official-looking document with the ministry seal. "As a ministry liaison for international educational standards, I've been asked to ensure that all disciplinary actions meet appropriate protocols, particularly when they involve potential educational decree violations." He handed Umbridge the document, which she scanned with increasing confusion. "This appears to be in order, but I don't recall being informed of your expanded role at Hogwarts." "A recent appointment," Cassius explained smoothly. "In light of concerns raised by certain Wisengamot members about due process in educational settings." Harry was impressed by the performance. Cassius had clearly prepared for precisely this type of contingency. "Nevertheless," Umbridge said, regaining her composure, "these students were caught participating in an illegal organization aimed at undermining ministry authority. A serious allegation that requires proper investigation," Cassius agreed. "Including verification of evidence and appropriate representation for the accused. The Wisengamot has been particularly concerned about the rights of underage wizards in disciplinary proceedings." He gestured to the students. "Perhaps we could continue this discussion once appropriate notifications have been made to parents and guardians. Educational Decree Number 16 does specify such notifications for serious infractions." Umbridge's face contorted with barely suppressed rage as her own educational decrees were used against her. "Very well," she said through clenched teeth. "The students will receive detention pending proper investigation. You may go." As they filed out of the office, Harry caught Cassius's eye and received a barely perceptible wink in return. The reprieve was temporary, but it had prevented immediate disaster. Once safely away from Umbridge's office, Cassius spoke quietly to the group. "Return to your common rooms immediately. Say nothing of this to anyone. I'll be in touch regarding the official investigation. As the others dispersed, he held Harry back momentarily. "Luna is safe. She got the younger students away through a dimensional fold, a temporary passage similar to what we use for travel to Crescent Hollow, but contained within Hogwarts." Relief washed over Harry. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Cassius warned. "Umbridge won't give up easily, and this incident has forced her to notice me more than we'd planned. My cover may be compromised. What do we do now?" "We adapt," Cassius said grimly. "And we remain vigilant. Luna will contact you when it's safe." The aftermath of the DA's discovery cast a pall over the entire school. Umbridge instituted even stricter security measures, with the inquisitorial squad patrolling corridors day and night. Detentions were assigned liberally, though thanks to Cassius's intervention, they stopped short of the blood quills Harry had experienced earlier in the year. Communication with Luna became difficult, as all students were now closely monitored. They resorted to coded messages left in library books and brief, seemingly casual encounters in public spaces. "The council is concerned," Luna whispered during one such meeting in the Great Hall. Umbridge's investigation is getting uncomfortably close to things she shouldn't discover. Like dimensional magic? Harry asked under his breath. Luna nodded slightly. Some of the books I've been researching in the restricted section contain references to concepts adjacent to dimensional theory. If she puts the pieces together with my cousin's unusual interest in me. The situation grew more complex when Umbridge began questioning students about Luna specifically. Apparently, someone had mentioned her unusual disappearance during the DA raid, and the High Inquisitor's suspicions had been aroused. She had Malfoy follow me to the library yesterday, Luna told Harry during a carefully orchestrated collision in the corridor. I had to pretend I was researching Crumplehorn Snorkax for a special project. Did he believe you? I've spent years cultivating a reputation for eccentricity, Luna replied with a faint smile. It has its advantages. Despite these precautions, it became increasingly clear that remaining at Hogwarts under such scrutiny was becoming dangerous, not just for their dimensional secret, but for Luna personally. The breaking point came during astronomy OWL examinations, when Harry witnessed Umbridge and several Aurors attack Hagrid and seriously injure Professor McGonagall. In the aftermath of that shocking event, Cassius sought Harry out privately. The situation has become untenable, he said without preamble. The Council has ordered Luna's immediate return to Crescent Hollow for her safety. Harry felt a surge of alarm. When? Tonight, Cassius replied. And they strongly recommend you accompany her. But the OWLs aren't finished, Harry, Cassius cut him off gently, I understand your concern for your education. But there are larger considerations at play. Umbridge's investigation is veering dangerously close to exposing dimensional magic. If that happens, the consequences would be far worse than missed examinations. Harry knew he was right, but the thought of abandoning his friends, especially with Voldemort still out there somewhere, felt wrong. What about Ron and Hermione? What about the prophecy and everything else? You wouldn't be abandoning your world permanently, Cassius assured him. But a strategic retreat now would allow time for safer planning. And considering the time differential between dimensions, you could return with minimal time lost here. It made logical sense, but still Harry hesitated. I need to talk to Luna. Cassius nodded. She's waiting in the room of requirement. Go carefully, the Inquisitorial squad is watching. Using every stealth technique he'd learned over years of nighttime wanderings, Harry made his way to the 7th floor. The room had configured itself as a small, comfortable space with a fire burning in the hearth when he arrived. Luna sat cross-legged on a cushion before the fire, her expression unusually solemn. You've spoken with Cassius, she said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Harry sat beside her. He says the Council wants you to return to Crescent Hollow tonight. They've detected unusual dimensional activity near Hogwarts, Luna explained. Possibly remaining supporters of Noctis, possibly something else entirely. Combined with Umbridge's increased scrutiny. It's not safe for you here, Harry finished. Luna nodded. And they believe it's no longer safe for you either, given our connection and what you now know about dimensional magic. Harry stared into the fire, conflicting emotions warring within him. Part of him recognized the wisdom in a strategic withdrawal. Another part rebelled against leaving while threats remained. What do you think we should do? He finally asked. Luna considered the question carefully. I think, we should trust our instincts. Mine tell me that leaving Hogwarts temporarily is wise. But I won't go without you, Harry. Why not? Because our magics are linked now, she said simply. The synchronicity we experienced in Crescent Hollow created a connection that transcends physical proximity but is strengthened by it. If I leave and you stay, both of us will be more vulnerable. Harry hadn't considered this angle. So it's not just about keeping me safe from Umbridge, it's about magical protection too. Yes. And there's more. Luna turned to face him fully. In Crescent Hollow, you could continue your education without interruption, not just in dimensional magic, but in defensive techniques that might help against Voldemort when you return. When I return, Harry repeated. Not if. Never if, Luna confirmed. I would never ask you to abandon your world permanently, Harry. That's not what being Eternal King would mean either, if you choose that path. It would mean protecting both worlds, not choosing one over the other. Her words resonated with something deep inside him. The prospect of learning magic beyond what Hogwarts could teach, magic that might actually help him face Voldemort when the time came, was tempting. And the idea of escaping Umbridge's tyranny, even temporarily, held undeniable appeal. What about Ron and Hermione? He asked. I can't just disappear without telling them anything. Luna nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps it's time they knew some version of the truth. Not everything, but enough to understand why you need to go away briefly. And how do we explain where we're going? A partial truth, Luna suggested. That my family has connections to an ancient magical tradition that might help you prepare for what's coming with Voldemort. That we need to study somewhere safe from Ministry interference. It wasn't the whole truth, but it wasn't entirely a lie either. Harry considered it for a moment, then nodded. All right. But I want to tell them in person, not leave a note or something. Of course, Luna agreed. We can arrange a meeting here tonight, after curfew. Cassius can help ensure they're not followed. The plan set, Harry found himself facing the prospect of temporarily leaving behind the only magical home he'd ever known. It should have felt more difficult than it did. But as he looked at Luna, Princess Luna of Crescent Hollow, who had chosen to share her extraordinary secret with him of all people, he felt a strange sense of rightness. How long would we stay? He asked. A few weeks in Crescent Hollow time, Luna replied. Which might translate to days or even hours here, depending on the dimensional flow. Harry nodded. Enough time to learn something useful, then return for whatever Voldemort might be planning. Exactly. Luna reached out and took his hand, the familiar magical connection humming between them. Think of it as strategic preparation, not retreat. Later that night, Ron and Hermione slipped into the room of requirement, nervous and confused by the mysterious summons. Harry had never seen a more welcome sight. What's going on, mate? Ron asked, glancing between Harry and Luna. Your note sounded serious. It is, Harry confirmed. You might want to sit down for this. Over the next hour, Harry and Luna explained as much as they dared about the situation, that Luna's family had access to ancient magic that could help Harry prepare for the coming conflict with Voldemort, that Umbridge's interference made remaining at Hogwarts dangerous for both of them, and that they planned to leave temporarily to study somewhere safer. But where exactly are you going? Hermione asked, her brow furrowed with concern. And why can't we come too? It's a magically protected location, Luna explained smoothly. Access is restricted by blood connection, with rare exceptions. She glanced at Harry. Harry qualifies for an exception due to a magical compatibility discovered recently. Ron looked bewildered. Magical compatibility? What does that mean? Harry felt heat rise to his face. It's complicated. But basically, my magic and Luna's work well together in ways that might be useful against Voldemort. Hermione's eyes narrowed slightly, her quick mind clearly sensing there was more to the story. And you'll be gone how long? A few weeks for us, Harry said carefully. But we should be able to return much sooner in real-world time. Maybe even days. Dimensional time differential, Luna added, then winced slightly as Hermione's eyes widened. Dimensional? Hermione repeated. Luna, are you talking about alternate dimensional theory? That's highly theoretical magic, most wizards consider it impossible. Most wizards are wrong about many things, Luna replied serenely. But yes, that's part of it. Ron looked completely lost now. Can someone explain in normal person terms? We're going somewhere that time moves differently, Harry simplified. So we can learn more in less time. Like that time turner thing Hermione had? Ron asked. Similar concept, different mechanism, Hermione murmured, her academic curiosity clearly piqued. Luna, the implications of functional dimensional magic are extraordinary. The research potential alone is precisely why this must remain absolutely secret, Luna interrupted gently but firmly. Imagine what the Ministry would do with such magic. Or Voldemort. That sobered Hermione immediately. You're right, of course. She turned to Harry. When do you leave? Tonight, Harry admitted. That's why we needed to tell you now. I couldn't just disappear. Ron looked hurt despite the explanation. And there's no way we can come. Not this time, Luna said. But perhaps in the future, once Harry has learned enough to help protect others during transition. The implication that there would be more dimensional travel in the future wasn't lost on either of his friends. Hermione especially gave Harry a long, searching look. There's a lot more to this than you're telling us, isn't there? She asked quietly. Harry nodded reluctantly. Yes. And I promise I'll explain everything when I can. But for now, we need to trust you, Hermione finished. All right. But you'd better come back, Harry Potter. And when you do, I expect a full explanation. With diagrams, Ron added, attempting humor despite his obvious concern. Harry felt a rush of gratitude for his friend's understanding, even without all the facts. I'll be back before you know it. Literally, if the time thing works like Luna says. As they said their goodbyes, Hermione pulled Harry into a fierce hug. Be careful, she whispered. And whatever this is between you and Luna, whatever magical compatibility really means, just be sure it's what you want. Harry hugged her back tightly. I think it might be, he admitted quietly. It's different, but it feels right. Ron's goodbye was less emotionally complicated but no less heartfelt. Bring back some decent defensive spells, yeah. Something to wipe that smirk off Malfoy's face when you return. Count on it, Harry promised. After his friends departed, Harry turned to Luna, feeling both weight and lightness simultaneously. Ready? Luna nodded, withdrawing a small silver compass, the emergency port key they'd used before. Cassius will remain here as planned, monitoring the situation and creating cover stories for our absence. And when we return? Luna's smile was both mysterious and reassuring. We'll be ready for whatever comes next. She extended her hand, and Harry took it without hesitation. As the dimensional portal began to form around them, Harry took one last look at the room of requirement, at Hogwarts, his first true home. It's not goodbye, Luna said softly, reading his thoughts. Just until soon. The portal enveloped them in shimmering light, and Harry felt the now familiar sensation of being pulled through the spaces between worlds. Hogwarts dissolved around them, and Crescent Hollow beckoned ahead. Whatever awaited him there, magical training, royal politics, or deeper understanding of his connection with Luna, Harry faced it not with trepidation but with growing confidence. The path ahead was uncertain, but for perhaps the first time in his life, it felt like one he was choosing rather than one thrust upon him. As they materialized on the familiar crystal platform of Crescent Hollow, Luna squeezed his hand gently. Welcome back, Harry Potter. The multiple moons shone down upon them, illuminating the floating islands and crystal spires of Luna's realm. And for this moment, at least, Harry felt like he had arrived exactly where he needed to be. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.